The third generation of the Dark Lord comes from Hogwarts. Chapter 81. Long time no see, my good student. Voldemort smiled sinisterly. Today is the final exam that the teacher gives you. Behave well and don't let me down. After saying that, he took the lead and walked towards the secret room. Yagus followed silently. Crunch. The rotten wooden door slowly opened. The huge three-headed dog Lu Wei was lying down and resting. When he saw the door open, he stood up suddenly. A paw pressed against the door panel leading down. He growled at the two of them. A strong stench hit my face. Voldemort didn't care and turned to look at Argus beside him. First game, are you ready? Teacher, you should have been prepared for the three-headed dog. Yagus didn't even look at it. If I take action, the noise will be huge. Smart kid. Voldemort sneered, waved his wand, and a harp flew out of his pocket. With a few taps of the wand, the harp emits sweet music. Let's go. That giant said that as long as you listen to music for this beast, you can make it sleep peacefully. With a wave of the wand, the trapdoor on the ground clicked open. Voldemort turned his attention to Argus, obviously intending to let him explore the way. Argus didn't hesitate. Anyway, he knew what was below. In order not to arouse Voldemort's suspicion, he jumped down towards the entrance of the cave. Cold wind gusts. A cold, damp breath spread along Yagus's body. The hole seemed bottomless, and with a strange muffled sound, Yagus landed on a soft net. The next second, the seemingly soft net shrank rapidly, as if to tightly bind him. My student, how are you going to pass this level? Voldemort slowly fell and floated in the air. The look he looked at Yagus was full of teasing. The flames are blazing. Argus took out his wand from his pocket the moment he landed on the net. He didn't even look at the direction, he just fired a fire spell. Zitsa. The sound of burning flames sounded, and the devil's net curled up and twisted. I tried my best to avoid it, but to no avail. Even though Yagus's body was no longer entangled, he still didn't let go of these things. Devil's net, afraid of light and fire. The easiest way is to have a fluorescent flash or a blazing fire. Rich knowledge base. Voldemort was not surprised by this. In his opinion, even if Yagus didn't recognize what it was, he could still rely on his own strength to solve it. Keep walking, there are still checkpoints waiting for you ahead. The two continued to move forward. In the long and deep corridor, it was so quiet that one could clearly hear their footsteps and the sound of water drops falling. Not far away, there seemed to be some terrifying creature roaring, which looked extremely terrifying. After turning a corner, another gate appeared in front of them. The door was locked, and countless pairs of shining wings were flying in the air. The second level is to find the real one among countless keys. How are you going to solve it this time, Yagus? Voldemort looked at the broomstick not far away, and then at Argus. Apparently he knew that Argus couldn't use a broomstick. Yagus chuckled, his eyes not changing at all. Walk quietly towards the door. Take out your wand and point it at the door. The next second, a dazzling red beam of light lit up. Expelliarmus. Boom. With a violent explosion, the door shattered. Argus turned to look at Voldemort. Sometimes, you can walk through the door without a key. Isn't it? Teacher. The right choice, the disarming spell is very powerful. Voldemort praised, but the expression on his face showed no sign of praise. He knew that Yagus' improvement was huge, but he didn't expect it to be as big as this. Even Quirrell might not be able to cast the disarming spell just now. Originally, he still had the intention to manipulate Yagus at will, but this disarming spell instantly calmed him down. Perhaps, he needs to re-evaluate his only student. Hagrid's Fluffy, Professor Sprout's Devil's Net, Professor Flitwick and Mrs. Hooch's Flying Key. The remaining ones should be Professor McGonagall's Wizard Chess, Snape's Potion, and Quirrell's Troll. And Dumbledore's Mirror of Arised. Yagus silently counted the next levels in his mind. What he needs is not only to clear the level, but also to ensure his condition to the maximum extent. Be prepared for Voldemort's sneak attack at any time. Pushing open the broken door fragments, the two continued to move forward. It was completely dark inside and nothing could be seen. But just after taking a few steps, the surrounding torches suddenly lit up. Yagus was standing on the edge of a huge chessboard, with a lot of black chess pieces in front of him. The chess pieces are made of unknown stones and look very solid. Looking at his height alone, he is even taller than Voldemort. On the other side of the chessboard is a group of tall white chess pieces. A wooden door is behind white. My dear disciple, are you going to use magic to force your way through again this time? I remember that I taught you a lot of black magic, which can be used here. Yagus said nothing. The exam-oriented education he received in his previous life made him think about Professor McGonagall's intention of making such an arrangement. Professor McGonagall is the professor of transfiguration, so this test should also be about transfiguration. Ron's chess skills in the original book are indeed worthy of praise, but he did not understand Professor McGonagall's original intention. It resulted in heavy losses at this level. Yagus took out his wand and tapped it a few times, his eyes clear. Sure enough, it can be transformed. It's just that the more important the chess piece is, the greater the magic power required to transform. In this case, calmly start the chess game in front of you. The car goes to e6. Pawn goes to c5. Queen walks to h3. As orders were issued one after another, many stone chess pieces started fighting fiercely. Voldemort looked at the scene in front of him with great interest. But as time goes by, Yagus uses fewer and fewer black chess pieces, only one queen and two bishops. On the contrary, the white side has 8 soldiers left, a queen, a bishop, and a knight. Bang! Bang! There were 2 more loud noises, and the last queen of Yagus completed the exchange with the other party. Voldemort's mouth showed a hint of ridicule. You don't want to waste your magic power, do you want to try to pass this level using wizard chess? It seems that you are not good at this. Chess is a game for kings. It emphasizes civilization and strategy. How do you know that I will lose until the last moment? Yagus stood beside Voldemort, still remaining calm. Voldemort sneered. A tough-talking student. But I want to remind you, if this is your performance, I will give you a mark for this exam. Before he finished speaking, the situation in front of him suddenly changed. I saw the wand of Argos pointed at the 2 nearest soldiers of the White King. The next second, one of the 2 pawns turns into a black queen, and the other turns into a black rook. Cooperate with the 2 bishops to directly force the White King into a desperate situation. Yagus spoke slowly, with an understatement. General. Argus looked at Voldemort with an understated expression. My chess skills are indeed not good, but my transformation skills are pretty good. Voldemort's eyes were cold. Since you have already thought of a way, why don't you just turn all the white chess pieces into your chess pieces? Why? Why do you say? In order to save the magic power to deal with you. In order to buy more time, wait for Harry and the others to come over. If I really wanted to clear the level early, I would have just fired a disarming spell. No need to put so much thought into it. Yagus cursed in his heart, but only replied with 2 words. Forget. Forgot. Veins popped up on Voldemort's forehead. There is a smile on the corner of the mouth, but the smile does not reach the bottom of the eyes. There was just a chill. If it weren't for Yagus being his candidate for parasitism, with his temper, he would never have kept Yagus until now. As the White Queen was defeated, all the white chess pieces bowed and gave way one after another. Voldemort stopped delaying and walked through the door with Argus and continued down the corridor. Not far away, a pungent stench hit us. It's not like the body odor of a 3-headed dog, it's more like corpse odor. Yagus had smelled it several times before coming to England and was very sensitive to the smell. As we continue to move forward, the smell becomes more obvious. Through the dim light, a huge figure in the distance was squatting on the ground and eating something. Hearing footsteps coming from the door, his movement stopped. He stood up suddenly and stared at Argus and Voldemort with a pair of cloudy eyes. His dark green skin was stained with bright red blood, and he held a huge wooden stick in his hand. At over 5 meters tall, he is more than twice as tall as Beagus. What the hell is this, a troll? Aren't normal trolls always 12 feet, 3 or 4 meters tall? Where did you get such a giant Mac? In the original novel, if Harry and Ron had encountered this thing in the toilet, they would have been torn alive. Yagus screamed crazily in his heart. He almost couldn't hold back the curse. Turning to look at Voldemort. I saw the other party smiling extremely proudly. Are you ready, Yagus? This level was personally prepared by your defense against the dark arts teacher. Hope. You can enjoy it. Enjoy. I enjoy it so much. Argus gritted his teeth, took out his wand and walked towards the troll. He recalled in his mind the method of Harry's trio defeating the troll in the original book, and looked at the stick in its hand. With the size of this giant monster, it is obviously unrealistic to knock it to death or knock it out with a stick. The most convenient way is to chew the big melon with Avada and throw it over. Simple and crude, kill with one hit. But this approach would inevitably arouse Dumbledore's hostility further. He even said that he could use due process to imprison himself in Azkaban. What happened today seemed dangerous, but in fact it was just an adventure arranged by Dumbledore for Harry. But as long as Iago survives the plot safely and holds on until Harry comes, he can easily pass the level. But if you don't use the killing curse, most of the spells are no different from tickling to highly resistant magical creatures like trolls. Due to his age, his magic power is not strong enough. Even if his level of disarming spell is high enough. It also takes several shots to kill it. What method should be used? Argus took out a big dung egg from his arms, and with Voldemort's surprised gaze, he threw it directly at the troll. I have to admit that Weasley's product must be a high-quality product. After a soft sound, an indescribable stench quickly filled the air. Yagus, who was well prepared, covered his mouth and nose in advance. Voldemort is different. He has been in the magic world for so many years and has come into contact with mostly high-end wizards. Never seen this thing before. No precautions at all. His face turned green from the smoke. Just when he was about to take out his magic wand to dispel the stench, Yagus took action. Even a giant monster cannot accept the stench of a big dung egg for a while, especially if it is hit head-on. I was choked and coughed repeatedly. The foggy stench made the already dark environment even more invisible. Coupled with the giant monster's already clumsy body, he fell to the ground before taking 2 steps. The opportunity has come. Yagus's eyes lit up. Expelliarmus. The thick red light flashed out quickly, but it did not hit the giant monster. Instead, it hit the stone wall above its head. Boom. The next second, countless boulders rolled down and hit the giant monster's head hard. The troll knew that danger was coming, but its brain the size of a booger was simply not enough to support its thinking. All I know is trying to protect the top of my head with my hands. But it was of no use. As more and more stones fell, it was soon buried in the pile of rocks. Ignoring Voldemort's murderous gaze, Argus stepped forward with a smile to claim credit. Teacher, it seems that the troll prepared by Professor Quirrell is not difficult to deal with. Snort. Voldemort ignored him and waved his hand to disperse the stench from his body. He walked towards the door without looking back. According to the time in the original book, Harry should be here soon. I just don't know if that peeping Tom Dumbledore will sneak over. While Argus was thinking, the two of them had arrived at the potion challenge arranged by Snape. It was a very simple reasoning game. Voldemort was not even interested in watching it. He picked up his wand and cast the magic of isolating the flames on himself, then strode into the door of flames. Argus was not to be outdone. Knowing the plot in advance, he had already prepared magic items to isolate the flames, and followed Voldemort straight through the door of black flames. A slight feeling of dizziness came over me. Opening his eyes, he saw a deep staircase in front of him, with strange patterns carved on the surrounding walls. A huge mirror is at the end of the stairs. Is this the legendary Mirror of Arised? I've been to Hogwarts for so long, and this seems to be the first time I've seen it. I don't know what I long for most. Argus came to Voldemort's side and pretended to be puzzled. Teacher, is that mirror what you want? Except for that mirror, it seems like there's nothing else here. Voldemort walked towards the Mirror of Arised with an expressionless expression. A pair of eyes stared at himself in the mirror. After a while, my body seemed to be hollowed out, my legs softened, and I almost fell to the ground. When he raised his eyes again, his temperament and expression had obviously changed. Let Yagus come over and give it a try. He doesn't know what we are looking for. He might have different effects. In the back of his head, Voldemort realized that even if he handed his body back to Quirrell, he still couldn't find any sign of the Sorcerer's Stone, so he couldn't help but urge him. Yes. Yes, Master. Quirrell's weak voice sounded. He waved his hand and motioned for Yagus to come over. Gee. Mr. Grindelwald, you, come here. Stand in front of this mirror. Argus didn't mind and came to the mirror arised. Anyway, only he could see the scene in the mirror. Even if he got the Philosopher's Stone, Voldemort wouldn't know about it. A ripple like a water wave echoed on the mirror. Immediately afterwards, the scene that Yagus desires most in his heart slowly emerged. In the mirror, the family members in the previous life sat happily together with Vita, Grindelwald and others. Mother was telling Vita interesting stories about her childhood, with a knowing smile on her face from time to time. Grindelwald and his father drank together, their faces flushed. Scenes that are impossible to appear in reality are perfectly integrated in the mirror. It turns out that what I want most is the company of my family. I thought I would see a scene in which I conquered the wizarding world in the future, or traveled back to the previous world. Yagus quietly looked at the scene in the mirror, unconsciously intoxicated by it. Ever since he traveled to this world, he has always looked at everything here from a bird's eye view. Even though I had contact with many people, I never had a real sense of belonging. The scene in the mirror filled the last void in his heart. What do you see? At this moment, behind Quirrell's head, Voldemort's voice was so gloomy that no emotion could be heard. Breaking Yagus's thoughts. Yagus reacted quickly, without looking back, and his tone was calm. I saw that I became the leader of wizards and was respected by countless wizards. Really? Voldemort controlled Quirrell's body and slowly stepped forward. The words were full of doubts. This mirror allows you to see what you desire most in your heart. If you want to see what you want, teacher, it should also be you, teacher. Not me, who doesn't even know what it is, right? How do you know what this mirror does? Yagus chuckled and pointed to the top of the mirror. The mirror itself already told me the answer, I just had to turn it over and read it again. What I show is not your face, but the desire of your heart. What I long for is never a certain item. I'm afraid your wish to get something through me will be in vain. Voldemort fell into silence and slowly walked in the direction of Argos. In his mind, Quirrell's horrified voice was shouting crazily. Master, Master, you can't do this. Master, I am your most loyal servant. Master, you can't do this. Faced with Quirrell's pleas, Voldemort paid no attention to him and continued to approach Argus. Yagos, I have to say. You are the most talented wizard I have ever seen. Whether it is magic, observation, or control of people's hearts, ordinary wizards cannot compare. Thank you for the compliment, teacher. Yagus keenly sensed something was wrong and quietly stepped back. His hand unconsciously touched the wand on his waist. It's just that your current learning speed is still too slow. I have a good way for you to quickly master all my knowledge. Voldemort's tone was full of confusion, but how could Argus not know what kind of medicine he was selling in his gourd? Say no directly. Sorry, teacher, I think it's better to be down to earth when learning this kind of thing. Disobedient students will not please the teacher. Come on, let me enter your body, and you will get all my knowledge. It won't take long before you can become the leading figure in the wizarding world. Voldemort walked closer and closer, the expression on his face became more greedy. The next second, the two beams of light were launched almost simultaneously. Expelliarmus. All petrified. Boom. A violent explosion sounded. As the smoke filled the air, Voldemort's figure emerged. Are you so sure that I won't use the death curse? You are reluctant to kill me, teacher. If you kill me, you will have to rely on Quirrell's half-dead body to cause trouble for Dumbledore. Yagus smiled sarcastically and kept glancing towards the entrance. Harry, did you drink too much? How long has it been? Why haven't you come yet? But he forgot that the devil's net used as a buffer in the cave had long been burned clean by him. Harry and Ron were lucky that they didn't fall to death. Voldemort stroked his wand and waved his hand to disperse the surrounding smoke. It's been half a year since our last class. Today, let me see how much progress you have made in the past 6 months. As you wish. Yagus made a semicircle with his wand, making a dual gesture of ancient nobles. Voldemort withdrew his wand. As a mixed blood who admires noble pure blood, he attaches great importance to the etiquette of pure blood families. Especially in this kind of battle, where he thinks he is sure of victory. He doesn't mind showing off his magnanimity. He made a circle with the wand, held it upright in front of his chest, and flicked it hard to the lower right. Just as he was about to bow, a loud spell sounded. Expelliarmus. Immediately afterwards, a thick red light came towards us. In his hurry, Voldemort only had time to erect a transparent shield in front of him. But compared to the dazzling beam of Expelliarmus, this shield is too thin. Click. The crisp sound of the shield cracking sounded. Voldemort was sent flying and hit the wall hard. The shattered walls and exploding dust made him look disgraced, and he looked very embarrassed. How could Yagus let this opportunity pass? He waved his wand one after another, emitting bursts of light. Curses flew towards Voldemort. Voldemort was forced to cast several iron armor curses in succession to barely block Argos's curse. Okay, very good. Voldemort laughed angrily. Thank you for your good teaching. Yagus didn't mind and didn't feel the slightest guilt for his sneak attack. Speaking of which, I still learned this trait from you. Sharp teeth and sharp mouth. Voldemort had recovered from the sneak attack and began to wave his wand wildly. Madness releases the spell. Argos showed no sign of weakness, picked up his wand and pointed it at Voldemort, doing his best to delay time. The crackling sound of the magic spell colliding and the muffled sound caused by hitting the stone wall echoed throughout the secret room. The ground is cracking and the walls are crumbling. Besides fighting, the two had to dodge falling rocks from time to time. However, Voldemort's combat experience was far greater than that of Argus, and coupled with his many years of research on black magic, he was far superior to Argus in terms of spell coordination and timing of release. Soon, Yagus was so overwhelmed that he couldn't even lift his head. Fight back, my good student. Where's the dark magic I taught you? Don't you use it yet? Are you like those idiots who think that using black magic is an unforgivable taboo? Ha ha ha. As Voldemort gradually took control of the battle, he finally had the confidence to regain his position verbally. Why hasn't Harry come over yet? Even if you are giving birth to a child, you should have finished giving birth after such a long time. Argus cursed in his mind, but because of his distraction, he was knocked to the ground again by Voldemort. Stand up, Argus. After studying for half a year, is this all you have? Voldemort laughed mockingly, but suddenly a green light beam appeared in front of his eyes. Avada Kedavra. Oops. Voldemort's pupils shrank sharply. The previous battle made him subconsciously think that Yagus could not use black magic, let alone use the unforgivable curse. The sudden killing curse gave him no time to react. Boom. The splashing dust slowly dispersed, revealing the gray stone wall. Voldemort held the wand in his hand and smiled extremely proudly. Ha ha ha. I almost got killed by you. My good student. Now, enter the second game. Your dark magic exam. Argus stood up slowly while supporting the wall. None of this hit. He picked up his wand and took a deep breath. There is only one chance for the killing curse, and it is basically impossible to recreate the scene just now. However, since the killing curse has been used, there is no need to worry about it again. Save your life first before talking about anything else. Heart-breaking and bone-cutting. The dark green twisted beam exudes a frightening aura. Voldemort, however, dodged lightly and hit Argos with a curse. Although no incantation was recited, the dark stench was enough to prove its power. Zitza. Yagus dodged sideways, and the magic spell hit the wall, making a strong corrosive sound. The battle between the two was far less intense than before. But it's 100 times more dangerous than before. No ordinary person can bear any curse. Boom. Another spell struck. Unknowingly, Yagus's body was stained with blood. Although he was not hit, the flying gravel was unavoidable. The wizard's robe has become tattered. Voldemort seemed to have lost his interest and raised his wand. The tip of the wand raised a green light. At this moment, there was a sudden burst of footsteps at the door. Harry walked in confused. As soon as I walked in, I saw Quirrell playing Yagus. I couldn't help but be stunned. Odd. Professor Quirrell, why is it you? He couldn't believe it. Until he entered the door, he thought he was facing Snape. Unexpectedly, I spent a long time thinking about it, and I didn't even figure out who the boss I was going to fight was. Yagus on the side just breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Harry coming over, but when he heard his words, he almost had a brain hemorrhage from anger. Why are you so cool? Come on. I almost died at his hands, and you're still talking nonsense. You think you are Naruto. You can escape with your mouth. Voldemort was equally disdainful of Harry's behavior. Just in time. He waved his hand gently, and several ropes immediately flew towards Harry. The flames are blazing. How could Yagus allow his secret weapon to be controlled so easily? The rope was burned to pieces with a fire. Voldemort frowned and glanced at Argus coldly. He threw a magic spell at it. But the next scene almost shocked his eyes out. Argus stretched one hand in Harry's direction and held his wand in the other hand, pointing at Harry Potter. Harry comes flying. In Harry's horrified eyes, Argus used him to block Voldemort's curse. Boom. The curse flew straight out. Hit Voldemort right in the chest. It is as expected. Yagus smiled. He had speculated earlier, thinking that Harry's magic could not only rebound Avada Kedavra. In the original novel, Harry was able to turn Quirrell into powder with just a touch. Therefore, Harry is the best weapon to deal with Voldemort, who has not yet been resurrected. Voldemort was dumbfounded and didn't realize what happened for a moment. Argus would not give him time to react, and threw a curse directly at Voldemort. Boom. There was a muffled sound, and Voldemort flashed past. Harry fell to the ground and was thrown around. Missed. Then try again. At this moment, Yagus still looked like he had just been tortured. Harry Potter is his biggest magic weapon to win. Dare to throw a curse. Use Harry to block it. Dare to play dirty tricks. Use Harry to block it. Want to delay. Harry, come on. For a moment, Voldemort was unable to do anything about it. All spells cast on Harry were rebounded. If he has been resurrected and is in his prime, there will naturally be a solution. But now, he is just a remnant soul. There is no solution at all. You can only use deformation or use the surrounding rocks and gravel to resist. But how could Yagus watch helplessly? A series of curses shattered the gravel in front of Voldemort. As for whether Harry was injured, it's not me who's injured anyway, so it's none of my business. Boom. Can you put me down? Bang, bang, bang. In just a few minutes, Harry was thrown dozens of times. His body was bruised and purple. Her face, which was originally fairly fair, was swollen like a pig's head. Voldemort's side wasn't much better. He is in a parasitic state, and Quirrell's body has already reached its limit. If you continue, your body will collapse before long. No, we can't go on any longer. Voldemort gritted his teeth and gave Argus a hard look. Plan to leave immediately. How could Yagus give him this opportunity? Wand waved. Harry fly. Harry, who had just landed, was summoned by Argus again before he could see what was going on. Throw it towards Voldemort. Armor protection. Shattered to pieces. At the same time, the curse follows from the other direction. No matter which one Voldemort blocks, the other will hit. Caca. Voldemort blocked Harry, but he didn't have time to resist Argus' spell. The already broken body gradually split apart, and body fragments scattered one after another on the ground. Seeing his appearance, Yagus finally breathed a sigh of relief. Yagos, you did a great job. Trust me, we will meet again. Voldemort's ghastly voice sounded. He possessed a Horcrux and would not be killed even if he cast the death curse. Not to mention being shattered to pieces. A group of black mist hovered in the air, scarlet eyes staring at Yagus below. Of course, I believe that too. Just next time, I hope you can bring me more surprises, teacher. Yagus turned around sharply. The black wizard's robe drew a perfect arc with his movements. The wand in his hand slides, and a blue flame rises where it points. Huge rings of fire kept flying, like elves, jumping along the surrounding stone walls. Fire shield. The blazing flames followed Argus's wand and swallowed Voldemort in midair. Li Huo can take care of the Horcruxes, so he can also take care of Voldemort's remaining soul. Voldemort was completely scared now. A harsh howl came out of his mouth, and his whole body turned into a ball of black smoke, fleeing into the distance. It disappeared into the darkness in a blink of an eye. Seeing Voldemort actually leaving, Argus collapsed on the ground. What a big loss. If I had known that Voldemort was going to come here to deal with him, I should have agreed to Dumbledore's deal and taken advantage of it. It's good now. I haven't caught anything yet, and I still spent so much effort. He looked at Harry, who was unconscious, and then at the mirror of Arised. A smile appeared on his face. I took such a big risk, so it's not too much to get some salary. I wonder if the scene in the mirror of Arised can also appear in a coma. No matter, let's try it first and then talk. Yagus dragged his tired body and dispersed the fire shield. He reached out for Harry and placed him in front of the mirror of Arised. After waiting for a while, making sure that Harry in the mirror had time to put the sorcerer's stone into his pocket, he reached for his pocket. At this moment, a blazing flame lit up in midair. Fawkes's cry illuminated the entire chamber. A white figure suddenly appeared. Good evening, Argus. It seems I'm still a step late. Thankfully you're safe. As Dumbledore spoke, his eyes looked at Argus' hand reaching for Harry's pocket. Without any embarrassment, Argus took out the sorcerer's stone from Harry's pocket and put it into his arms. I'm fine, but Harry may need to go to Madame Pomfrey's. Dumbledore seemed to have acquiesced in handing over the Philosopher's Stone to Argus and did not say anything about it. Just seeing Harry's face that was swollen like a pig's head, he couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth. He took out his wand and pointed it at his face. Healed as good as ever. White light shone, and Harry's face gradually recovered. The moment he opened his eyes, he subconsciously reached out and hugged his head. Dumbledore's face was filled with black lines. Professor Dumbledore. Realizing that he was not thrown out like just now, Harry dared to put down his arms. At first glance, he saw Dumbledore beside him. Professor, just now. It's okay. Dumbledore interrupted Harry's inquiry and looked remorseful. In fact, if I hadn't left Hogwarts for London, what happened today wouldn't have happened. It's not your fault, Professor Dumbledore. No one would have thought that Professor Quirrell would become Voldemort's minion. Seeing Harry constantly comforting Dumbledore, Argus couldn't help but curl his lips. Silly boy. From the time you came here until now, no one has even tipped off Dumbledore. If he really didn't know about Quirrell, how could he come back so soon? Harry, can you tell me what just happened? Of course, Professor. After Harry briefly described everything that had just happened, he looked at Dumbledore with confusion. Professor, I have a question for you. What's the problem? Dumbledore looked kindly and reached out to stroke Harry's dirty wizard robe. Why did all the magic Voldemort cast on me bounce back to himself? That's because your mother sacrificed herself for you. Such behavior will leave a mark. Harry subconsciously touched his scar. No, this mark blends into your skin. What is that? Love, Harry, it's love. Dumbledore touched Harry's head. Back then, your mother used her own life to build protection on you, which prevented Voldemort's conspiracy from succeeding. To this day, this magic is still protecting your safety. This is something Voldemort will never understand. He doesn't understand the greatness of love. Mother. Harry's eyes looked sadder than ever before. Yagus smelled something unusual. He was not a newbie in magic like Harry, who was easily fooled by Dumbledore. Both Grindelwald and Voldemort are masters of dark magic. If he remembered correctly, the magic that Lily used at the cost of blood and life was typical black magic. Even among the curses, it is still among the high-end. But how could she, a Muggle-born witch, be able to use such high-end black magic? Did you learn it from Sirius? Or is it the heritage of the Potter family? While thinking about it, Dumbledore had already completed brainwashing Harry. He looked at Yagus. If I don't ask you to recover the magic stone, don't try to undermine me either. Two foxes, one big and one small, understand each other tacitly. Harry, I'll send you an Argus to Madame Pomfrey for a good checkup first. Harry then remembered that Argus was there. He recalled that he had suspected that Argus had evil intentions, and then thought about the scene where Argus and Voldemort fought to the death. Argus is the first friend of his own age that he has met in the wizarding world. It has helped me more than once. As a result, I have been doubting him. I didn't even have a chance to let him explain. Rich regret filled his brain, causing him to subconsciously ignore the fact that Yagus used him as a human shield. He lowered his head and came to Yagus. Yagos, I'm sorry, It's okay, it's all over. Yagus smiled and patted Harry on the shoulder. The next second, a system prompt came to my mind. Congratulations to the host for detecting Voldemort's conspiracy and obtaining the achievement, Hope of the Magical World. Achievement point reward, 200. Current remaining achievement points, 500. Infirmary. Madame Pomfrey handed a bottle of potion to Argus and Harry, each with an unkind look on her face. Compared to Harry, Argus's injuries were more serious. Harry only suffered a bad fall, but most of it was superficial injuries. Yagus has really been cursed several times. Even if Voldemort is extremely weak, the strength of the spell cannot be matched by ordinary wizards. He was holding his breath before, and since his battle with Voldemort had just ended, his adrenaline was surging, so he felt nothing. Now that I relax, the fatigue and pain in my body suddenly come back. Lying on the same hospital bed as Harry. Fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up, it was already the afternoon of the next day, and what happened last night had spread throughout Hogwarts. What is different from the original work is that the protagonist of this incident has changed from Harry to Argus. Dumbledore also thought about giving this honor to Harry, but Harry had been knocked unconscious long ago. Coupled with his guilt for Argus, he wanted to boast about Argus's achievements to the sky. Countless little wizards sent their most sincere gifts and blessings. Daphne, Draca, Pansy and others even stayed in front of Argus's bed. Yagos, you wake up. Seeing Yagus open his eyes, a group of people immediately came over. Agus, how do you feel? Are you okay? I'm fine. Yagus stood up holding the pillow. It has to be said that Madame Pomfrey's medicine is indeed effective. After sleeping for a day and a night, the injury has basically healed. It's okay. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and took out a lot of gifts from the ground. These are gifts from everyone. I hope you can recover soon. Thank you all for me too. Not drinking water for a long time made Yagus's voice a little hoarse. Harry on the side looked longingly at Argus who was filled with gifts and blessings beside the bed. Then he looked at himself and suddenly felt like crying. What about the red-haired Weasley? Such a big thing happened to you, and he didn't react at all. I remember when something happened to him, you stayed by the hospital bed every step of the way. Draco truly loved Harry. Looking at Harry who was lonely, he couldn't help but feel sorry for him. That's right. Ron. Harry seemed to suddenly remember something and stood up suddenly. Regardless of his own body, he ran wildly outside. I forgot, Ron fell from the trapdoor and broke his leg. He's still in the cave now. Go to the professor and save him. Ron, who stayed in the dark and damp cave for a day and a night, was finally fished out by Professor Cat. When I walked out of the cave, I felt as if I had just come out of the river. The moisture in the cave, the pain from the broken right leg. No one knows how he survived this day and night. Knowing that he had almost gotten into trouble, Harry felt too guilty to look at Ron. Although it was Ron who asked him to find the Philosopher's Stone first, it was also out of his trust in Harry. But now, if Draco hadn't mentioned it, he would have been so painful that Harry might not have even thought about it. In the blink of an eye, a week passed. Because of the completion of the final exam, the little wizard played almost like crazy this week. No homework, no classes. Every day when I open my eyes, I just think about where to go today. Unfortunately, happy time is always very short. Soon the day came when the results were announced. Countless students crowded in front of Hogwarts Castle. A huge piece of parchment is posted on the bulletin board. You only need to tap it with a wand to know your results. Of course, this score will also be mailed to your home during the holidays. As soon as Argus, Draco, Hermione and others walked to the outside, there were comments from the crowd. Take the initiative to forge a path. Argus is coming. I wonder what grade Yagus will get. Does that need to be said? It must be number 1. A group of young wizards almost reached a consensus. Even if Yagus hasn't looked at his results yet, he is sure that he is the first in his grade. Don't move, let me come first. Before Argus could speak, Draco took out his wand and pointed it at the parchment. If you watch it yourself first, you can at least lower your psychological expectations. If Yagus gets the first place in his grade and reveals his barely passing grade, others will laugh him to death. Dark ink stains slowly emerged on the parchment. Herbalism, A. Potions, E. Charms, E. Defense against the dark arts, A. Transfiguration, A. History of magic, A. Flying lessons shocked face. Astronomy, A. Okay, everything passed. Draco breathed a sigh of relief, patted his chest, and looked happy. Turning his head, he saw Yagus' eyes that were half smiling but not smiling. Don't forget what you promised me. Continue to make up lessons during the holidays. After saying that, regardless of Draco's whining, he was about to check his results, but Hermione beat him to it. Herbalism shocked face. Potions shocked face. Charms shocked face. Defense against the dark arts, E. Transfiguration shocked face. History of magic shocked face. Flying lessons shocked face. Astronomy shocked face. Except for the defense against the dark arts course, all have the highest ratings. But this still didn't satisfy our little witch. I knew it. In the defense against the dark arts exam, I wrote too little on several questions and didn't write them all at all. If only the parchment were larger. Hermione's mouth was so pouted that it could hang from a soy sauce bottle. Yagus smiled helplessly. It's already very good. You let others live like this. As he said that, he took out his wand and pointed it at the parchment. Unexpectedly, the parchment did not directly show Argus's results, but instead the school emblem of Hogwarts appeared. Badger, snake, lion, eagle. The school emblem composed of 4 animals burst into brilliant flames in midair. Sure enough, let me tell you, Yagus is definitely number 1 in the grade. Oh my god, Hermione Granger only has 1 E, Argus can't have all O's. There is also a gap between O and O. Some people get O because their level is only O, and some people get O because their highest rating is only O. Draco was now extremely grateful that he had checked the results in advance. Otherwise, like Goyle, Crabbe, and Theodore, they would be too embarrassed to even look at it. On the parchment, Yagus's achievements gradually appeared. Except for the flying lesson, which is blank, everything else is O. At the same time, system prompts came from the brain. Congratulations to the host for winning first place in the final exam and achievement, first in grade. Achievement point reward, 100. Current remaining achievement points, 600. There were bursts of exclamations from the crowd. I am still ranked first even if I miss one class. The gap is too big. Didn't you see during the exam? Before we even finished reading the questions, Yagus had already finished them. Don't think about it. The exam is over anyway. You might as well wait and watch the Academy Cup tonight. College Cup. When this topic was mentioned, Yagus suddenly thought of it. Since there are achievement point rewards for ranking first, then there should also be rewards for the Academy Cup, right? I just don't know if Dumbledore will act like a monster this time. In the original book, in order to gain Harry's reputation, he forcibly added 170 points to Gryffindor. Almost sending the House Cup to Gryffindor. But now it's different from the original. The protagonist who defeated Quirrell became himself, this was Harry's own admission. Even if Dumbledore wanted to add points to Gryffindor, he couldn't get around himself. What's more, Harry and Ron lost far more than 170 points this school year. Gryffindor once again lost Hermione as a bonus point weapon. It is firmly at the bottom of the 4 major colleges, nearly 100 points lower than the third-placed Hufflepuff, and more than 200 points lower than the number 1 Slytherin. Unless Dumbledore is shameless enough to give Harry and Ron 300 points each. But if he really dared to do this, Professor McGonagall alone wouldn't be able to pass it without the help of Slytherin students. The impartial Professor Mau will not allow such favoritism and malpractice. Even if the beneficiary is you. Night. All the students of Hogwarts gathered in the castle hall. Because the Academy Cup will be announced soon, and there will be a holiday tomorrow. All the students seemed extremely excited. The entire college is filled with a cheerful atmosphere. Especially Slytherin. The score in the funnel is much higher than that of the second-placed Ravenclaw, and the victory is basically sealed. Even the decorations in the hall bear Slytherin's green flag everywhere. Ding ding ding. Professor McGonagall gently knocked on the cup in front of her, and the entire hall gradually became silent. Dumbledore stood up, glanced around and then spoke slowly. Another school year is over. Now, it's time to award the Academy Cup again. The scores for each college are as follows. 4th place, Gryffindor, total score 256 points. There was sparse applause from the Gryffindor table. And, sighs. Obviously very dissatisfied with this score. A few people even cast disgusted looks at Harry and Ron. 3rd place, Hufflepuff, total score 352 points. The 2nd place is Ravenclaw, their score is 461 points. Topping the list is Slytherin House with a total score of 517. As soon as he finished speaking, the Slytherin table burst into deafening cheers. Draco was extremely excited, and several people kept waving their arms to show their inner excitement. Several chiefs also had a smile on their faces. Even Snape, who was sitting on the professor's chair, silently applauded. Well done, Slytherin. However, recent events must also be taken into account. I still have some final points to award. The eyes of all the young wizards were focused on Dumbledore's face, waiting for his next words. Mr. Ron Weasley, even if he is in danger, he is willing to take the overall situation into consideration and sacrifice himself. 50 points reward. Bang bang bang. There was sparse applause from the crowd. Because of his repeated attacks on Argus, Ron's name has become notorious in Hogwarts. If it weren't for the sake of his brothers, no one would care about him. Well done. Percy gave Ron a rare compliment. Ron, who had brought extra points to Gryffindor, almost had his tail raised to the sky. He had no memory of who caused Gryffindor to be deducted like this. The second prize is awarded to Mr. Harry Potter. He showed us extraordinary courage and courage. He still moved forward bravely in the face of a powerful enemy that he could not resist. Reward 60 points. This time, Gryffindor is really excited. A group of people clapped excitedly. What was originally the bottom result is now the second to last. Although they still can't win the Academy Cup, they are at least better than the last place. Dumbledore was also helpless. If Gryffindor was only a few dozen points behind Slytherin, he could still try to find some excuses for Harry and the others. But the reality is that they are twice as bad. More than 200 points. If I add them directly, what is the difference between it and an unofficial appointment? How can there be any fairness in future Academy Cups? If word gets out, do you still want this old face of yours? Fortunately, the third to last one this time was the most peaceful Hufflepuff. If it had been Ravenclaw, there might have been a riot. He turned his attention to Argus, who was sitting at the front of Slytherin, and continued to speak. Finally, Mr. Argus Grindelwald. With one person's power, he protected the safety of Hogwarts. 100 points reward. As soon as he finished speaking, there was thunderous applause. Especially the Slytherin members wanted to slap their hands until their hands were swollen. Draco and others even held their chests high, fearing that others would not know their relationship with Yagus. Argus, our total score is 617 points, which is the highest score in the history of Hogwarts. We made history. Daphne shook Argus's arm crazily and watched many girls biting her silver teeth. It's not that they have never won the Academy Cup, but this is the first time for them to have such a huge gap. What's more, it also broke the record of the Hogwarts Academy Cup. Calm down, calm down. Several other colleges are watching. Yagus acted very calmly. There is no need to be surprised by something that has been expected for a long time. On the professor's stage, Dumbledore's eyes were finally willing to leave Argus. Announce the ownership of this Academy Cup. If my calculations are accurate, Slytherin wins the House Cup this school year. Yeah. The Slytherin table instantly turned into a sea of joy. A system prompt came from Yagus's mind. Congratulations to the host for winning the first-year College Cup and achievement. College Cup First Grade. Achievement point reward. 100. This achievement won't be the same as Chief Slytherin, with increasing reward points, right? If this is the case, we may have to put more thought into the Academy Cup in the next few years. Argus wanted to think carefully about his holiday plans, but the excited Slytherins were unwilling to let go of him, the biggest hero of this school year. One by one, they took him to eat and chat. Many students from other colleges also came to congratulate. The Weasley twins, one on each side, had their arms around Argus's neck. Let me tell you, why did our sponsor suddenly take away all our inventory? It turns out we are going to do something big. Tell us quickly, how is the effect? The Weasley twins have been publicizing the matter of Argus using their products to deal with Quirrell in the past few days. Their prank products are already extremely popular, and they are making a lot of money these days. Sisters Parvati and Padma also came to Yagus and said goodbye reluctantly. They are from India. After this holiday, they have to wait until school starts before they can meet Yagus again. The banquet was stopped until curfew was approaching and Professor McGonagall couldn't stand it any longer. Yagus originally wanted to go back to rest early and draw a prize. Unexpectedly, back in the Slytherin lounge, the restless little snake started celebrating for the second time. Many senior students took out their collections from Hogsmeade and continued the quarrel until late at night before it was finally over. Yagus sat on the chair and rubbed his brows tiredly. System, query achievement points. Current remaining achievement points, 700. 700 is a lot, so it's time to draw a prize to celebrate. System, start the lottery. The card pack with strange patterns floated in the air and began to rotate around Yagus. Just click on the 7 closest to you. The familiar blue sky and white clouds drift by, until the last one. Suddenly a dazzling golden light bloomed. It's shipped. It's finally shipped again. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Zombie Floating, Level 2, Burning Hot, Level 3, Show Me the Way, Level 1, Illusion Spell, Level 3, Duplicate in Pairs, Level 2, Misty Mist, Level 2, Class. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Apparition, Level 8. Current remaining achievement points, 0. 8th level Apparition, Hiss. Yagus frowned slightly. Disapparition is indeed an effective spell, and the difference between high level and low level is huge. For example, when Dumbledore and Grindelwald were fighting, they were basically dodging around. For an ordinary wizard, even long-distance movement may cause problems. Not to mention using it in combat. The 8th level of Apparition is enough to soar his combat power to another level. It's a pity that Apparition isn't available at Hogwarts. Yagus sighed slightly. He was very satisfied with this lottery. Not only did he get an effective amount of gold, but he also got a commonly used magic called the disguise. Although the level is not high, it is enough. It is detected that the host has mastered some magic spells. Do you want to choose fusion? Merge. In the next moment, countless knowledge poured into his brain. Disapparition seems to be an instinct of the body for him. Host has excellent talent, super magic level comprehension. Zombie Floating, Level 3, Show Me the Way, Level 2, Duplicate in Pairs, Level 3, Misty Clouds, Level 3. I don't know if the Blessing Elixir is useful in the lottery. Argos pulled out the pile of unicorn tail hairs and the empty elixir bottle stuffed in his body. When he fought against Voldemort, if he hadn't had these things to cushion him and cooperate with him, he might not have been able to hold on long ago. How could we wait until Harry came over? After packing all his luggage, Yagus could finally lie down and rest. He fell into a deep sleep until the next morning, when he took the Hogwarts Express to the platform. Follow Vita back to the manor. As soon as he arrived at the manor, he saw Vita coming to Yagus holding a piece of parchment. After taking a closer look, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. Your results from Hogwarts have been sent. It's pretty passable. Sure enough, no matter where they are, grades are a hurdle that children will never overcome. Fortunately, he is the first in his grade. If he failed several subjects like Ron, Vita would be so angry. It wasn't until he returned to his room that Yagus had time to take out the magic stone and look at it carefully. Regarding alchemy, he didn't plan to spend too much thought. Everyone's energy is limited, and only by being willing can you go further. For example, Dumbledore may not be good at potions, otherwise he wouldn't ask Snape to make tooth-healthy potions for him all day long. But this does not prevent him from becoming the greatest white wizard of this century. The same goes for Grindelwald and Voldemort. Spend more time on what you need and are good at, and you can improve more quickly. In addition, alchemy inherently requires a lot of time for experimentation, learning, and accumulation. With this skill, I might even be able to penetrate Voldemort. Is there any need to study these? However, this magic stone is indeed a good thing. It is of great use at critical moments. Feeling the abundant magic power and vitality in the magic stone, Yagus seemed to know how to use it for the time being. Isn't this just a small mobile spring? Ability to restore blood and mana anytime and anywhere. And this is exactly what I lack most at the moment. If I had this thing before the fight with Voldemort, why would I have bothered so much? With level 8 apparition and a portable mobile spring, Yagus finally gained some confidence and began to think ahead about his next actions. The development of the Saints has temporarily reached a bottleneck. The events before Gringotts are being forgotten. We have to find an excuse to remind the British wizards again. After this time, the opening of Saints Bank can be included in the plan. In addition, Voldemort's Horcrux should also be prepared in advance. You must keep the diary in your hand, and it must not be thrown away by Harry so easily. The Gaunt family's ring was left to Dumbledore. Without it, it would be difficult to kill this old man. We can wait until we get back to school to get the Ravenclaw diadem, but we can get the Slytherin pendant now. If I remember correctly, this thing is in the hands of the house elf of the Black family. The tasks for this holiday are very heavy. I didn't want to know, but Yagus discovered it after careful calculation. I have a lot to do this holiday. Originally, he wanted to take advantage of the vacation to secretly go to Nurmengard to meet the old man, but now it seems that he can only continue to postpone it. Bang bang bang. There was a knock on the door, and then Vita's voice sounded. Yagos, are you asleep? The saint has important matters and needs you to make a decision. Yagus got up with a groan and opened the door. I didn't sleep. I was just reading a book. What happened? Aunt Vita. Do you remember Scrimgeour? Vita's expression was a little serious. Hasn't he been arrested and tried a long time ago? What happened again? Argus struggled to search his mind for information about Scrimgeour. Don't blame him for not taking it seriously. After all, the matter of Scrion's masterpiece was a certainty back then, and with Fudge and a group of pure-blood families watching, he couldn't escape even if he had great abilities. Based on his crimes, he should have been sent to Azkaban long ago, but for some reason, the Ministry of Magic has been delaying sending him until now. Having dragged it on until now. What does Fudge do for a living? Can he keep dragging it on forever? Vita shook his head. It's not Fudge, it's the Wizengamot. We fought back several times because of insufficient evidence. Originally, Fudge planned to send someone to Hogwarts to ask you to attend as a witness, but Dumbledore refused on the pretext of going to class. It wasn't until some time ago that more and more people paid attention and it couldn't be delayed any longer, so he was put on trial. Argus frowned. Dumbledore doesn't want Scrimgeour to go to Azkaban. Dumbledore. That's right. Yagus nodded. There's more than one person who wants Scrimgeour dead. Fudge, the pure-blood family, and Barty Crouch can't say for sure. It can block so much pressure and have an impact on the Wizengamot. There's only one man in the whole of Britain who can do it. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he asked Vita, how are we preparing for the position of Director Auror? It's impossible to tell. We came to the UK for too short a time and don't have enough foundation. No matter how capable the person who breaks into the Ministry of Magic is, it is impossible to become a confidant of Fudge or Bones in a short period of time. This time, Director Auror, I can only give it a try. Leave this matter to me. Please help me make arrangements. I want to see Scrimgeour alone. Don't let anyone. No. Before Yagus could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Vita. Don't you know how deeply Scrimgeour hates you? Even if he doesn't have a wand in his hand, we can't bet on it. He has been imprisoned for a long time and cannot move, Aunt Vita. Yagus retorted helplessly. Trust me, I won't take any chances. Do you have to see him? Vita was a little puzzled by Yagus's behavior. She didn't understand, what could be there to talk about with a prisoner? What's more, the other party was sent to the trial court by Yagus himself. Can this life and death hatred be resolved in just a few words? Sensing Vita's doubtful gaze, Yagus knew that Vita would not let him take the risk without a clear explanation. He spoke slowly. Aunt Vita, you should know how important this position of Auror Director is to us. It's about whether we can really gain a foothold in the UK. It's so powerful that it definitely can't be solved by just one try. But there is really nothing we can do about this matter. No leader will confide his heart to a stranger in a short period of time. Yagus patiently explained. Aunt Vita, if we want to get the Auror Director, we don't necessarily have to rely on Fudge or Bones. The competition between them is just to create space for us. Instead of becoming the Auror Director, the Aurors under you will obey your orders. But the Aurors under you obey your orders, and you are the Auror Director. The key to all this lies with Scrimgeour. But you personally sent him to the trial court, how could he be willing to help you? Argus looked in the direction of the Ministry of Magic, his eyes shining brightly. He will help me, because he has no choice. 2 days later, the courtroom of the Ministry of Magic. With a soft creak, the old door was slowly opened. Through the dim light, Scrimgeour's resolute face was full of vicissitudes of life. Mr. Scrimgeour, long time no see. Yagus walked into the courtroom, still with that decent smile on his face. It has not changed at all due to the chaotic environment around it. Scrimgeour looked up and then ignored him. We haven't seen each other for several months. Don't you recognize me, Mr. Scrimgeour? Yagus smiled lightly and sat aside calmly. Go away, disgusting dark wizard. Scrimgeour stared intently at Argus. Sooner or later, I will personally imprison you in Azkaban. Catch me in Azkaban. Yagus seemed to have heard some big joke. Instead of saying harsh words here, Mr. Scrimgeour should think more about how he can survive Azkaban. Do you think the dark wizards and pure blood families in Azkaban will let you walk out alive? Scrimgeour said coldly. You don't need to worry about this. Of course I won't worry about it, after all, it's not me who dies. If I remember correctly, Mr. Scrimgeour's family seems to have been hidden by you in the United States, right? You said, if you die, what will the wizards who are being hunted by you do if they know about it? Grindelwald. Scrimgeour tried to get up, but was tied tightly by the chains behind him. His tawny hair and thick eyebrows swayed wildly. The whole person is like an angry lion. Don't involve them in the matters between us. They are innocent. Innocent. Of course they are innocent, so I won't do anything to them. But the same cannot be said for other wizards. Argus didn't care about Scrimgeour's anger. His expression remained indifferent. Mr. Scrimgeour doesn't still want me to protect your family for you, does he? Do you really think all saints are saints? Grindelwald. I'll kill you. The chains on Scrimgeour kept making clanging sounds. He rushed toward Yagus madly, with bright red blood oozing from his wrists and ankles. Expelliarmus. Argus cast a disarming spell, knocking Scrimgeour down hard. Mr. Scrimgeour, you don't want your family to suffer inhuman torture from countless dark wizards, right? Or do you think Dumbledore can always protect you? He is helping you, but he just wants to use you to check and balance Fudge to achieve his goal of controlling the Ministry of Magic. Yagus frowned slightly, seeming to feel uncomfortable with the dark environment of the trial room. And the most important thing, what he didn't say, was that Dumbledore wanted to keep Scrimgeour in order to prepare for his future fight against Voldemort. Unfortunately, Scrimgeour didn't know this. Otherwise, you won't be able to arouse your emotions. But if he knew that you chose to seek refuge with Fudge, do you think he would continue to help you? Scrimgeour stood up, his eyes full of anger. I didn't. Whether you have it or not is not important at all. What is important is whether Dumbledore thinks you have it. Yagus said lightly. Before I came here, I asked Fudge to send someone to delay sending you to Azkaban. Guess what Dumbledore would think if he knew about this? Do you think you were wronged? Or do you think you chose to join Fudge to save your life? When the time comes, both you and your family will become his abandoned children. I'm sorry for the little girl who just entered Ilvermorny. I'm afraid she won't be able to graduate from school safely. You. Scrimgeour collapsed on the ground, breathing heavily. The eyes are bloodshot. Mr. Scrimgeour, I don't have time to waste with you. Now, tell me, what is your choice? Scrimgeour said nothing, lowered his head and remained silent. One last time, your choice. Yagus's eyes were cold. Seeing that Scrimgeour still had no intention of speaking, he turned around and left. Mr. Scrimgeour, you have been given the opportunity. It's your choice to give up. I hope you won't regret it in the future. Etc. At the last moment when Argus stepped out of the door, Scrimgeour finally spoke. For a moment, he seemed to have aged dozens of years. What do you need me to do? Done. The corner of Yagus's mouth raised an imperceptible arc. Although Voldemort's methods are crude, they are really effective. Even against a tough guy like Scrimgeour, you can be several % more confident. In the original book, Scrimgeour would rather be tortured to death by Voldemort than reveal any information about Harry. It can be seen from this that Scrimgeour's hatred for the Dark Wizard is definitely above his own life. But Yagus believes that no one is without weaknesses. Scrimgeour's weakness is his family. If he didn't care about his family, he wouldn't deliberately send his family to the United States to prevent the British Dark Wizard from retaliating. After getting the reply he wanted, Yagus secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Everything he said before was just his use of Scrimgeour's care for his family to mentally oppress Scrimgeour. You know, Fudge himself coveted the position of Auror Director, so how could he cooperate with Argus? But Scrimgeour didn't know that from his arrest to now, Fudge had been giving him the illusion that Fudge and Argus were in a cooperative relationship. Therefore, he had no doubts about what Yagus told Fudge to send people. I never thought that these were just lies used by Yagus to negotiate. Scrimgeour's eyes no longer had the color they once had. For him to cooperate with the dark wizard he believed in was tantamount to betraying his faith. He asked in an unprecedentedly tired voice, "What do you want by leaving me alive?" "Magic. Golden galleons. I need your connections and reputation within Aura Command." Argus turned his head and looked at Scrimgeour. "Tell me who are your cronies in the Aura Command, and what are the methods to control them and gain their trust. Give them all to me." Scrimgeour nodded and spoke tremblingly. He knew that from the moment he opened his mouth, he no longer had the capital to negotiate. After telling Yagus everything he knew, he sat quietly in the corner and stopped talking. Argus picked up the wand, waved it lightly, and a pen and parchment flew out from the door, recording everything Scrimgeour just said. Looking at Scrimgeour's face, a confident smile appeared on his face. "Thank you for your generosity, Mr. Scrimgeour. I forgot to tell you that everything just happened was just my plan and guess, and it didn't actually happen. A pleasure to work with." After saying that, he turned and left, leaving Scrimgeour alone in the courtroom, furious and helpless. "Agus, are you okay?" At the door of the courtroom, Vita was waiting anxiously. Seeing Yagus coming out, he immediately came forward and asked. Argus took out the parchment and handed it to Vita. "All Scrimgeour's contacts in the Aura department are here, use them well. Besides." Yagus glanced towards the courtroom. "Don't let him get out of Azkaban alive. He would never underestimate the Aura director who would become Minister of Magic in the future. Even if you already know the opponent's weakness, who knows if he will have a way to counterattack after he comes out. Instead of betting on the opponent's trump cards, it's better to take everything into your own hands." Vita understood, turned around and left the Ministry of Magic with Argus. 2 days later, in the Saints' Manor, Yagus sat at the table, picked up a stack of documents, and sighed in admiration. "I didn't expect Scrimgeour to be so popular among Aurors. The Aurors he can control account for about 60% of the total. I thought it would be good if half of these people can be used. Now there are actually more than 2/3. Coupled with the manpower deployed by the Saints in the Aura department, we can already account for more than half of the Aurors. It seems that it won't be long before the Saints can truly gain a foothold in the Ministry of Magic." The next day, the Ministry of Magic. Amelia Susan Bones looked solemn. Ever since Scrimgeour became active, she had been eyeing the position of Director Auror and wanted to hire her own people. However, the same was true for Fudge, and the two of them fought openly and secretly for this position countless times. She is a serious and upright person. To be precise, everyone in the Bones family is extremely upright. Her brother and grandmother both died fighting against Voldemort. In the original book, she also stood up for Harry when he was arrested, but was later killed by Voldemort. But integrity does not mean that she has no desire to control power. As one of the 28 pure blood clans, she has shouldered the family's mission since she was born. Especially now, when Voldemort has not yet been resurrected and the British wizarding world seems to be in no danger. The fight between her and Barty Crouch and Fudge was almost in full swing. Under such circumstances, how could she let go of a major source of real power in the Ministry of Magic? What's more, this real power is still in her name. Fudge's psychology is very similar to hers, except that one is for the glory of his family, and the other is for his rights as Minister of Magic. Minister Fudge, the Aura department is originally managed by the Legal Enforcement Department. Now that the position of Aura Director is vacant, it should naturally be selected from within the Legal Enforcement Department. Fudge smiled proudly and couldn't help but sigh in his heart that Yagus knew everything. Director Bones also knows that Aurors belong to the Legal Enforcement Department. If Scrimgeour did something like this, don't you, as the director, have no responsibility for lax discipline? If the Legal Enforcement Department is like Scrimgeour, even if I trust the members of your department, will the British wizards believe it? But that's not the reason for you to get involved in various departments. Amelia didn't give in. Meeting. As the Minister of Magic, what part of the Ministry of Magic cannot I manage? When you talk about interfering, do you treat the Legal Enforcement Department as your personal belongings? Director Bones. Amelia didn't expect that the previously timid Fudge would become so sharp-tongued that she couldn't find the right words to say. But after all, she had been the director of the Legal Enforcement Department for so many years, and she immediately thought of a place to fight back. Auror Command is not something that just anyone can control. You must be extremely familiar with the wizarding laws, and you must have sufficient strength and reputation. Except for the Department of Legal Enforcement, I'm afraid no one dares to claim to be familiar with wizarding laws, right? That's not necessarily true. Fudge snorted coldly. There are many people transferred from the Legal Enforcement Division to other departments. How does Director Bones know that none of these people are suitable? Amelia held up her single eye, and there was a hint of a successful smile in her eyes. Secretary Fudge himself said that he was transferred from the Legal Enforcement Division. Why were these people transferred? What achievements have they made within the Legal Enforcement Department? Is there someone to take over the position in another department? All of these need to be considered one by one. Instead of going back and forth about these, it is more appropriate to select within the Legal Enforcement Department. Fudge stared at Amelia closely, clenching his hands unconsciously. The inner desire to take complete control of the Ministry of Magic grew more and more intense. If he could really control the Ministry of Magic, what would happen these days? If you want someone to come to power, just one sentence is enough. And now, I am the Minister of Magic, but I don't even have the right to appoint a director. Mr. Minister. At this moment, a sweet voice sounded. Umbridge appeared in front of the minister's office wearing a pink dress and a fake smile. What's up? Fudge asked while suppressing his anger. Mr. Minister, the group of werewolves in Nocturne Alley seems to have been making some moves recently. Should we send an Auror over to take a look? We can't let those beasts really cause any trouble, right? Then let. Fudge and Amelia looked at each other. There is no concession from either side. Finally, Amelia took a deep breath. Minister Fudge, I think that no matter what you do, you must put the overall situation first. Right now, it's business to deal with the werewolves in Nocturne Alley. Since the two of us can't argue about the position of Auror Minister, why not let them make their own choice? What do you think? It was true that Amelia wanted to deal with Nocturne Alley, and it was also true that she was unwilling to give up her position as head Auror. She dared to make this suggestion because she was sure that Fudge's people did not have the ability to control the Auror Command. If Fudge can become the Minister of Magic, he naturally has his own manpower. If it were a competition for power in the legal department or something else, he might not be willing yet. But in his eyes, his reputation as Minister of Magic cannot be compared to that of Amelia. There must be many more Aurors willing to take refuge in him than Amelia. Make a decision immediately. Okay, let the people in the Auror department choose. But we have our word first. No matter what choice they make, you and I can no longer interfere. We have to get them started on their mission. Seeing that her goal was achieved, Amelia had a satisfied smile on her face. Okay. I agree. Secretary Fudge, please. Would you like Minister Crouch to come over and be a witness? Fudge sneered at this and strode towards the Auror headquarters. Umbridge, the best dogleg, hurried to follow. The exams for Aurors from the British Ministry of Magic are very strict. To become an Auror, you need to undergo 3 years of training after graduating from Hogwarts. It is required to pass at least 5 NEWT exams, and the score should not be lower than E. In addition to academic requirements, Auror candidates must pass a criminal record background check and a rigorous character and ability test, and exams such as stealth and disguise. In the original book, Tonks almost failed. There wasn't even a new Auror in the entire year of 1995. There are only a few dozen Aurors in the entire British Ministry of Magic. And the age span is huge. It can be said that whoever can control the Auror Command can control the fist of the Ministry of Magic. No, it should be a magic wand. The three Fudges came to the Auror headquarters. The department office is not large, and in most cases, Aurors choose to perform tasks outside. But during this period, due to the lack of leadership in the headquarters and the news of Nocturne Alley, a rare number of people were present in the office. Some of the group of people were smoking, some were shouting at the top of their lungs, and some were minding their own business studying magic. Everyone seemed to be looking after their own affairs, with no order at all. Seeing this, Umbridge coughed several times as a reminder. Only then did the Aurors see Fudge and others arriving. Mr. Minister, Mr. Director. Fudge nodded. You all know what happened during this period. The former director of the Auror Department, Scrimgeour, committed an unforgivable crime and is about to be sent to Azkaban. But the Auror's mission cannot be suspended just because of him. Recently, the Auror's actions have not shown any order. Director Bones and I came here today to resolve this matter. Upon hearing this, many Aurors' eyes lit up. The meaning of Fudge's words was obvious. Isn't it the Auror Director's job to solve the Auror mission? I'm afraid that the position of Director of the Auror Department, which the upper management has been competing for a long time, will be decided today. After discussions between Director Bones and I, we have decided that you will vote for the position of Director of the Auror Department on your own. Director Bones and I are only responsible for recommendations. As he said that, he glanced at Umbridge. The other party wisely placed a piece of parchment in front of everyone. It contains several candidates recommended by Fudge and Amelia. Of course, in addition to the candidates recommended by Director Bones and I, you can also choose from among you. The person with the highest number of votes in the end becomes the director of the Auror Department. In order to show his impartiality, Fudge also added a special sentence. Little did he know that it was his words that buried a sinkhole for himself. All the Aurors looked at each other, no one dared to make the first move. Fudge looked displeased and looked at one of the yellow-haired men. The yellow-haired man stepped forward voluntarily, took out a piece of paper, wrote a name with a quill pen, folded it and placed it on the table. The name was naturally a Fudge candidate he was familiar with. With his proof, others no longer hesitated and wrote notes one by one and put them on the table. In the crowd, a tall man with chestnut hair glanced around quietly, secretly meeting the eyes of many people. He nodded slightly. In less than half an hour, everyone had chosen their favorite Auror director. There are piles of notes on the table. Fudge had a bright smile on his face. When these Aurors were just writing their names, he noticed that besides his own people, many people's eyes were jumping back and forth between the people they selected. And the strokes they used to write their names were very similar to one of them. As expected, the position of Auror Director will definitely be his bag this time. Amelia is equally confident. The Auror Department was within the Law Enforcement Division anyway. She had who knows how many more people in the Auror Department than Fudge. She also saw the reactions of the Aurors just now, so what if she saw too many? Seeing and choosing are two different things. Placing your hopes on things that are beyond your control is a form of cowardice in itself. At least, my base is much broader than Fudge. I really don't know how Fudge became the Minister of Magic in the first place. Everyone has finished choosing, let's announce the results. Umbridge, you go. Wait a moment. Just when Fudge was about to ask Umbridge to count the votes, Amelia interrupted him. I think that since it is personally selected by the Aurors of the Auror Department, it would be more appropriate for them to announce it themselves. What do you think, Secretary Fudge? Her words clearly showed that she could not trust Umbridge and was worried that she might use some tricks secretly. In fact, Umbridge did have this intention. Fudge, who felt that he was sure of victory, didn't care about this and said carelessly, "What Director Bones said makes sense, then." His eyes scanned around the Aurors, and finally landed on the girl with pink bubblegum hair. Tonks, please announce the results. Aye. Tonks didn't want to get involved in this kind of officialdom, but she couldn't resist. He mumbled and stepped forward. Opened the first note and read the name. Nepal bursted. After announcing it, he also showed the note to show that he had read it correctly. The corners of Amelia's mouth curled up slightly. This Nepal Bastard is one of the backbone of her subordinates. His strength is a bit lower than that of Moody, Scrimgeour and others, but he is still pretty good. He is a member of the Bastard family, one of the 28 tribes. Umbridge glanced at Fudge secretly, and after realizing that the other person's face was not good looking, she did not dare to say anything and tried her best to be like a quail. Although one person cannot prove anything, getting off to a good start is still a matter of face. Fudge naturally wants to do everything he can to achieve perfection. Tonks didn't know this. After reading one, she picked up the next one. Sean Scott. Hearing the name, Fudge had a smile on his face. And the next few, as expected, are all the names of his subordinates. This made him even more proud, and he looked at Amelia with some contempt in his eyes. Amelia's face turned ugly. If this continues, Fudge's people may really win the position of director or. Once it is really obtained by Fudge, it will be equivalent to driving a big nail into his own territory. The other party's strength will be greatly expanded, and its voice in the Ministry of Magic will be further improved. This is something she must never see. Director Bones, don't forget, this is the plan you proposed. As the director of the Legal Enforcement Department, you can't even keep this promise, right? Fudge was in a great mood and couldn't help but joke. Amelia snorted coldly. It's just the beginning, we still don't know who the final candidate will be. Really? Why do I feel like it's settled? Fudge smiled broadly, almost convinced that the Aura department was about to become a weapon in his hand. He has even begun to dream about the day when he can truly control the Ministry of Magic with the help of the Aura department. But soon, he stopped laughing. What happens next is far beyond his control. Not only Fudge, but Amelia was also confused. Of the dozen or so names Tonks read next, none of them were recommended by either of them. And without exception, they are all the same person. Fudge looked at everyone with a blank expression. I asked you to choose whatever you wanted, but you really did choose. Do you have any emotional intelligence? Can leaders take their words seriously? Alan Mitchell. Alan Mitchell. Alan Mitchell. As there were fewer and fewer notes on the table, Fudge and Amelia's expressions became more and more uncomfortable. Alan Mitchell. After Tonks read the last note, she didn't want to get involved in these things anymore and immediately got into the crowd. Umbridge glanced at Fudge hesitantly and picked up the parchment not far away that recorded the number of votes. Nepal Bosid, 8 votes in total. Sean Scott, 6 votes total. Tyler Kenneth, 1 vote total. Alan Mitchell, 21 votes total. Mr. Minister, this. Should we re-elect? When Fudge heard this, he couldn't wait to rush up and slap Umbridge twice. Idiot, is this allowed to be said? Even if I want to be re-elected, I can't say it openly. What do you make others think? Not to mention Amelia was there. When Amelia heard this, she almost couldn't hold back her laughter. The tone was full of ridicule. The minister is really fair and just. How about appointing whoever you think is suitable? Why vote? Anyway, as long as I am not the candidate in your mind, I have to start over. Fart. If you had said this earlier, would you still have needed to vote here? You have nothing good to say. Stand and stand again. Fudge's eyes were as wide as a bull's eye, but he could only sulk. He gave Umbridge a hard look, and then scanned the crowd, trying to find Alan Mitchell, who had taken his subordinate's position. As the Minister of Magic, of course I will not do such a shameless thing. Who is Alan Mitchell? Come out and show me. A man with chestnut hair walked out of the crowd and bowed to Fudge and Amelia. Hello, Mr. Minister, Director Bones. I am Alan Mitchell. You. Fudge looked at the man in front of him and hesitated. He looked familiar to this person, but he couldn't tell where he had seen him before. At this time, it was Senior Dogleg Umbridge's turn to come forward. Mr. Minister, Mr. Mitchell joined the Aura department half a year ago. Then he leaned into Fudge's ear and whispered something. He's one of ours. When you selected the person, his name was also among them. It's just that you think his qualifications are too low and he won't be able to convince the public even if he becomes the director, so you didn't include him. When Fudge heard this, he immediately became energetic. He had originally made the worst plan of sending someone to contact Alan Mitchell later, or even the other party seeking refuge with Amelia. Unexpectedly, things took a turn for the worse. In the end, he stumbled and became the Aura director. After coughing a few times, he looked at Alan Mitchell with more eager eyes. Mr. Mitchell, there's no need to be so polite. Since the Auras have chosen you, you will be the new director of the Aura department. Manage Aura Command well. Ha ha ha. Amelia's face was as black as coal. Staring coldly at Alan Mitchell. Congratulations, the new head Aura. Alan Mitchell smiled faintly and bowed politely. This also made Fudge even more proud. Director Bones, the director of the Aura department has been selected. I think it's time for us to let them continue their mission. There is a lot of backlog during this period, so let's not waste any more time. Amelia snorted coldly, turned around and left the Aura office. Fudge walked up to Alan Mitchell and patted him on the shoulder sincerely. From now on, the position of Director Auror will be yours. Don't do the same thing as Scrimgeour and do something that is not worthy of publicity. How could Alan Mitchell not understand the meaning of Fudge's words? The surface is to prevent myself from making the same mistakes as Scrimgeour. In fact, you are lighting yourself up. Follow his orders and don't be like Scrimgeour. Mr. Minister, with you leading the Auror command, it will be impossible for someone like Scrimgeour to abuse his power again. Fudge smiled with a smile on his face after receiving a satisfactory answer. Okay, don't worry, the Auror director will never be your end. Work hard and you will have a bright future. If anything happens, just ask Umbridge, she will help you. Umbridge gave a sweet smile knowingly. To be honest, she didn't like this chestnut-haired man. With the other party around, his status in Fudge's heart will be greatly reduced. But she also knew that now that the other party was in the limelight, Fudge would never allow herself to cause a stumbling block for the other party. You can only wrong yourself first. After Fudge left, Alan Mitchell immediately began to check the files of the Auror command. And secretly passed all the news to Yagis's manor. That night, Argus learned everything that happened in the Ministry of Magic. With the position of director of the Auror department, it will be much easier to insert people into the Ministry of Magic later. Based on the Auror department, it will slowly spread to the entire Ministry of Magic. He looked at a series of information from Alan Mitchell and murmured in a low voice. Werewolf, disappearance in Albanian forest, detection of dark magic items. If I remember correctly, Voldemort is still half dead in the Albanian forest. I guess the missing wizard has something to do with him. The detection of dark magic items supervised by Aurors was the beginning of Lucius taking out the diary. Some of the dark magic items were put for sale at Borgen's box store, and the diary was thrown to Ginny. Argus had wanted to get the diary before Lucius threw it into Ginny's hands. But then I thought about it. With Lucius's cautious character, it was impossible for him to give the things Voldemort had given him directly to him. No matter how talented you are, age constraints are here. Lucius would not put all his treasure on his little child. Lucius didn't know that this diary was Voldemort's Horcrux, otherwise he wouldn't have thrown it away. This is a good opportunity to completely tear the Malfoy family off Voldemort's ship. If Lucius knew that what he was throwing was Voldemort's Horcrux, he would have taken the initiative to seek protection without having to take action himself. Voldemort was resurrected during the Triwizard Tournament. I need to show enough strength during this period of time to truly gain the surrender of the Malfoy family. Seizing this opportunity, the right way is to get Slytherin's pendant first. Malfoy Manor. Lucius and Narcissa were dressed solemnly and were waiting quietly at the door with Draco. As an elegant figure wearing a gorgeous wizard robe slowly appeared, Draco was like a wild horse, waving his arms and galloping away into the distance. Yagos, here. Slow down. Don't fall. Argus shook his head helplessly and followed Draco to Lucius and Narcissa. Long time you wait, Mr. Malfoy. Mr. Grindelwald, long time no see. Lucius bowed slightly and saluted, his eyes unconsciously looking behind Argus. There was a hint of inquiry in his eyes. I wonder, Ms. Rosier. Aunt Beta has something to do, so it's not convenient to visit her at the moment. Yagis smiled slightly apologetically. I just came to see Draco in the name of a classmate, so I apparated here alone. I hope Mr. Malfoy doesn't mind. It's okay, the Saints group has been developing rapidly recently, Ms. Rosier. Lucius was about to reply when he suddenly realized something. He looked at Narcissa with disbelief in his eyes. Apparition. A little wizard who is not yet in second grade can actually use apparition. He kept looking at Yagis with his eyes, and his heart became more and more horrified. Lucius's strength is naturally much inferior to that of the professor. Even compared to elite Aurors like Moody, they are still a step behind. But strength does not mean vision. As the patriarch of the Malfoy family, his vision and mind are far beyond those of ordinary wizards. He is well aware of Yagis's importance to the Saints group. In terms of the danger of apparition, if it is not mastered proficiently, it is impossible for Vita to let Yagis use it at will. The distance from Saints Manor to Malfoy Manor requires an average adult wizard to disapparate at least 4 to 5 times. Moving to Malfoy Manor, my legs will probably feel weak. But Yagis couldn't seem to be tired at all. How could this not surprise him? Narcissa quickly noticed something was wrong with her husband's condition and quietly tugged on his sleeve. He gave Yagus an apologetic smile. Mr. Grindelwald, welcome to Malfoy Manor. Please come in. Lucius woke up from his trance and hurriedly stepped aside to invite Argus in. Argus bowed politely, followed the footsteps of Lucius and Narcissa, and slowly walked into the top mansion in the wizarding world. All the way to the living room. A pile of rich fruit snacks are placed on the table. The flowers are colorful but there is no trace of clutter. It is obviously placed carefully by the owner. Before he could sit down, Draco stuffed a lot of snacks into Argus's arms. Yagus, this is my favorite chocolate. Try it. And this. Yagus looked at him with a half smile. You brought me so many things, do you want to block my mouth in advance and prevent me from checking your homework? Draco's smile froze and he looked at Argus pleadingly. Forgot what you promised me before the holiday. First go and bring your homework over and let me take a look. Argus didn't give in, so Draco had no choice but to walk towards his room. He looked back 3 times in one step, always hoping that Yagus would change his mind. Unfortunately he was disappointed. Yagus' goal was never his homework. The homework was just an excuse. What he wanted to talk about with Lucius was best not to let Draco know. Lucius saw this and did not leave. Narcissa was also very knowledgeable and took the initiative to go upstairs and follow Draco to find his homework. Mr. Malfoy, I'll keep my story short. I got news that the Ministry of Magic has a big operation against dark magic items. Operation. That's right. Yagus nodded. In the near future, there will be a large-scale review, and all pure-blood families will be included in the review. I hope the Malfoy family can prepare early. Lucius fell into thought. He didn't doubt that Yagus was lying to him. After all, this kind of thing that affected the whole body was not something that could be joked about casually. There were 2 things that really made him think about it. One was how to deal with the family's black magic items. The Malfoy family has collected many dark magic items for many years, and it is not easy to dispose of them in a short time. The second is the hidden information brought by Yagus's words. The Malfoy family is deeply rooted in Britain, and even the Ministry of Magic has enough connections. Even so, he didn't get any relevant information. It can be seen that the level of secrecy of this operation is definitely beyond the reach of ordinary people. Being able to have access to this kind of secret, yet being able to spread it out regardless of the risk. It seems that the power of the Saints group is far from being as simple as he imagined. He looked at the calm blue-eyed boy in front of him, and he even had the illusion that he was looking at Voldemort. He remembered that when he first met Yagus, he didn't even have a place to stay. In just half a year, he has become a giant hidden in the British wizarding world. His methods are far inferior to even Voldemort's. I really don't know whether it is right or wrong for my son to have contact with him. Yagus had guessed what Lucius was thinking and took the initiative to ask. If the Malfoy family has items that are inconvenient to handle, they can be given to the Saints. It's not difficult for the Saints to deal with these things. No need to trouble Mr. Grindelwald. Lucius shook his head in refusal. Malfoy is still capable of handling this. Snapped. There was a sudden soft sound in front of the table. Immediately afterwards, a house elf in rags appeared in front of Argus holding a large pile of parchment. Lucius immediately became angry when he saw it. Didn't you see that Mr. Grindelwald and I were talking? Who asked you to come here? Go away. The reprimanded house elf looked aggrieved. Dobby. Dobby was sent by the young master to deliver homework to Mr. Grindelwald. Dobby didn't know the master was talking. More than. He is an outlier among house elves, the only house elf who yearns for freedom. Yagus became interested and looked at him with interest. From Dobby's reaction just now, you can see that he is different from ordinary house elves. Generally, when house elves encounter this kind of situation, they will apologize and punish themselves with fear. Not like Dobby, who dares to refute. However, Yagus had no intention of helping. This world is inherently one of jungle, and the defeated must have the consciousness of the defeated. I am not the Holy Mother. Whether you are dead or alive has nothing to do with me. Maybe he misunderstood Argus's gaze, and Lucius became even more angry. Taking out the wand and pointing it at Dobby is a severe punishment. Argus was not in the mood to see this. After taking away Draco's homework, he asked Lucius to leave a message for Draco. Let Draco continue to review, then turned and left. But no one noticed that there was an extra piece of platinum hair in his hand. Late at night. London, UK, Central District. A platinum blonde boy walked slowly towards Grimald Place. Come to the middle between number 11 and number 13, take out the wand and wave it continuously. Click click click. The walls moved, and a huge mansion slowly appeared. The exterior is shabby and dusty everywhere. Every step you take, you can see footprints made of dust. There was a creak at the door. The silver snake ring door handle was turned, and the old Blake house welcomed visitors again after being dusty for many years. It's been a long time since we've cleaned it. The house is full of dust. The platinum blonde boy coughed twice and waved his sleeves to clean up the dust around him. It looks cleaner here than outside, but far from tidy. The platinum blonde boy looked around at this mansion that had been built for an unknown number of years. The entire house uses black as the background color. Even if it has not been opened for many years, it still exudes elegance and luxury. Walking through the long and narrow corridor, a hoarse, low voice came from a dark corner not far away. Dear Master Malfoy, welcome to your arrival. In the portrait behind the moldy curtain next to her, a yellow-skinned old lady wearing a black pointed hat let out a piercing scream. Creature. You filthy fool, how dare you disturb my rest? Creature was extremely frightened. Mistress, please forgive Creature. Creature will soon. Grandma. The platinum blonde boy called out, causing the frantic old lady to stop instantly. He turned his head and looked at the platinum blonde boy blankly. Are you Narcissus' child? Before the platinum blonde boy nodded, he said to himself, yes, you can tell by your platinum blonde hair that you are from the Malfoy family. You've grown so big in a blink of an eye. Mrs. Black had a bright smile on her face. As long as she is pure blood, her attitude will not be bad. What's more, the one in front of him still carries the blood of the Black family. Even if it was a portrait with only memory, she couldn't help but feel joy from the bottom of her heart. Creature, why don't you clean up the house? You dirty lazy guy. Yes, mistress. Creature took a deep look at the platinum blonde boy, snapped his fingers, and disappeared from sight. Little Malfoy, come here and let me have a good look. How has your mother been over the years? How is the Malfoy family doing? You are the first person to come to Blake's old house in so many years. You can move around more in the future, after all. Mrs. Black seemed to have thought of something and sighed quietly. Since Sirius and Bella were captured, Regulus died at the hands of the Inferi. The huge Black family couldn't even find a suitable heir. Apart from Sirius and Bella, the one with the highest ranking is Narcissa, followed by Draco. Good boy, did Narcissa ask you to come here? Mrs. Black was not confused and knew that no one had visited the Black family for a long time. There's no way someone could come over for no reason. Asked proactively. The platinum blonde boy thought for a moment. My mother asked me to come here. She asked me to pick up something. Something. Wait a minute. Creature. Come here. Mrs. Black's disgust towards Sirius is unimaginable. I would rather throw away the things at home than leave them to him. Snapped. There was a soft sound, and Creature appeared in the corridor wearing a tattered shirt. Mistress, what are your orders? Little Malfoy needs an item from Black's old house. Go and get it for him. As you command, mistress. Creature lowered his eyebrows and stepped forward to ask. I wonder what Master Malfoy wants. The platinum blonde boy looked at him carefully, then turned to look at Mrs. Black. As if to say something. But the next second, a miserable green light lit up. The soul is out of body. Mrs. Black was stunned by the scene in front of her. She didn't know why the little Malfoy in front of her suddenly took action. The Black family has no suitable heir, and everything here will belong to him sooner or later. What's more, I have already agreed to his request. Why did it become like this? The platinum blonde boy, or Yagus, shook his head regretfully. Is there something wrong with my acting skills? No, Creature and Mrs. Black have never seen Draco's current temper. It should be that Creature can't feel the blood contract from me. Although Polyjuice Potion can change a person's appearance, it cannot change a person's bloodline. Mrs. Black is just a painting. If you can't feel the blood, Creature is different. No matter how thin the black blood in Draco is, it is still the blood of the Black family. But it doesn't matter. Ignoring Mrs. Black's screams and curses, Argus raised his wand and asked Creature to take off the locket hanging from his neck. In the original novel, the locket casts no curse, but Argus was unwilling to gamble. Anyway, Creature is already under his control, so there is no need to take risks himself. Creature's eyes were dull and he took out the locket. The ancient locket is covered with traces of time, but there are no stains. Apparently it's because Creature cleans up from time to time. After confirming that it was safe, Yagus put the locket into his pocket. The first Horcrux is in hand, and the next one is the diary. It's a pity that the Black family's collection cannot be obtained by the way, otherwise we would really make a lot of money this time. It's not that Yagus doesn't want to take it. He knows that the treasures of pure blood families are not that simple. In order to prevent theft or robbery, many things in books have powerful curses on them. If you are not careful, you may fall on it. Even a top wizard like Dumbledore was half dead by the curse of the Gaunt family in the original book. I am still young and there is really no need to take risks. What's more, Narcissa and Draco are both heirs of the Black family, and Sirius can also operate. There are so many risk-free ways, so why risk your life? Avada eats the big melon. Avada Kedavra killed Creature. The strength of House Elves has always been a mystery. But what is certain is that it cannot be underestimated. Taking Dobby as an example, he seemed to be submissive to Lucius, but after he was freed, he could easily be taken down with a snap of his fingers. Silent and wandless, he can also apparate at will. These few points alone can kill most wizards. If Argus hadn't used Draco's identity and Mrs. Black's order, plus a sneak attack. If you want to get the locket, you probably have to do what most time travelers do and fish for corpses. Argus glanced at Mrs. Black who was still cursing, and wanted to set her on fire. But thinking that Mrs. Black would have other uses in the future, she thought about it and ignored it. Walk straight out of Blake's old house. Return to Saint's Manor. Argus found a magic object for Slytherin's locket and placed it solemnly. The current locket is still a Horcrux, with Voldemort's soul attached to it. If you touch it easily, you may not know what will happen. He picked up the information on the table that Alan Mitchell had just delivered. Fudge had just sent them to Nocturne Alley to deal with the werewolves there. Among them, a haggard and dilapidated figure caught his attention. Lupin. He's in there too. Looking at Lupin's ragged figure in the photo, he couldn't help but sneer. Dumbledore, who was an outstanding student at Hogwarts back then, Harry's father's loyalist, and a dignified member of the Order of the Phoenix, was so messed up that Dumbledore didn't even look at him. It was better to wait several years after Harry enrolled in school before inviting him back as a professor. He thought about recruiting Lupin in advance, but he didn't have the right chips in hand. Those were the only things that made Lupin willing to obey orders. Solving the werewolf, the truth of the past, Harry. If you can give these things yourself, Dumbledore can do the same. In this case, why did the other party leave Dumbledore alone and take refuge in someone he had never interacted with before? Yagus tapped his knuckles lightly on the table, summoning Vita Rosier. Aunt Vita, tell Alan Mitchell and ask him to pay more attention to this werewolf named Lupin. There is no need to follow him. Just tell me if he has any movements. Okay. Vita didn't ask much, took the photo and was about to leave. By the way, the Malfoy family just sent news that the things have been taken care of. Several families, including the Greengrass, Crabbe, and Parkinson families, have also handled the situation in a similar manner, so you don't have to worry. There is a banquet tonight, and several important members of the family are there. I would like to invite you to attend to express my gratitude. Yagus nodded. Okay, I will go there then. How are you doing with the address I asked you to find? The planting and breeding bases have all been built and are now in use. As for the street location, we haven't decided yet. Where's Gringotts? According to your request, I have been secretly promoting Gringotts' oppressive behavior. Ordinary wizards' dissatisfaction with Gringotts has reached a peak. As long as a flame can ignite instantly, it is not easy for the pure blood family. They don't have it. So easy to fool. From today on, we can change our focus and tell the British wizards that nothing was really lost in the previous attacks on Gringotts. It was because the items lost were too many and too valuable for Gringotts to afford. Once the owner of the item discovers it, Gringotts may even be at risk of bankruptcy. Yagas had seen many bank bankruptcies in his previous life. Many of them are due to the inability to recover the funds lent externally, resulting in funding problems. Gringotts is not responsible for the business of releasing gold galleons, so it is unlikely to squeeze its living space through this. But you can change the way and use the method of ordinary wizards to withdraw money, and continuously withdraw the gold galleons from Gringotts. Once a trend becomes popular, even pure-blood families will be upset. The bank's profit is nothing more than relying on depositors' funds, and this is even more true for Gringotts, which has repeatedly demolished the east wall to make up for the west. The difference is that Gringotts has the right to mint coins. Unless they create gold galleons at all costs, it is impossible to pay off all the wizards' stored funds. If they really dare to do this, the pure-blood family and the Ministry of Magic can take the lead and tear those goblins alive without me taking action. Vita nodded thoughtfully, turned and left, conveying orders to the others. Time flies, and 1.5 months have passed. During this month, the Saints deployed a large number of manpower to the Ministry of Magic. At the same time, more and more ordinary wizards are going to Gringotts to get gold galleons. Gringotts heard rumors from the outside world and could try to explain them. Unfortunately, wizards are also human beings, and everyone can only draw their own conclusions within their own cognitive scope. They only believe what they want to believe. No matter how Gringotts explained it, no one paid any attention. Yagas lived a very comfortable life, reading books and practicing magic every day. Occasionally reply to Hermione, Padma and others. With the talents that have been fully developed for a long time, the level of many magic spells has been broken through to level 4 in a month. One morning, when Argus was trying to use Dumbledore's water prison to fight Voldemort by the lake, an owl came to him with a letter. Adjustments to the textbooks and defense against the dark arts professors in the new school year. Yagas remembered that the second-grade defense against the dark arts teacher seemed to be a parallel importer. In addition to spreading his wings like a peacock, the forgetting curse can only be justified. Breaking with the ghost, walking with the ghouls, holiday with the dominatrix, walking with the trolls, traveling with the vampires, wandering with the werewolves, a year with the snowman. These few books together are worth dozens of gold galleons. Good guy, this is making money by selling off Hogwarts students. If I remember correctly, these books are sold in Saints bookstores. We have to ask Aunt Vita to deal with it quickly. In less than a year, this parallel import teacher will be in trouble. When the time comes, all these books will be thrown into your hands. After walking out of the manor, Argus apparated and appeared in the Saint's shop in Diagon Alley. Since the Christmas promotion, Argus has not entered Diagon Alley from the Leaky Cauldron. Even walking is rare. Afraid of being surrounded by enthusiastic British wizards. Aunt Vita. When Yagas saw Vita, she was talking to a few middle-aged men. When she heard the voice, there was a look of surprise in her eyes. Yagos. Why are you here? The book list for the new school year at Hogwarts has arrived. I'm here to get some books. You can just tell me about this kind of thing. Do you need to make a trip? What book do you want? Show me. Vita frowned slightly and quickly stepped forward to take the parchment from Yagas' hand. The moment I picked it up, it was not the parchment I imagined, but a delicate black rose. For you, Aunt Vita. Yagas smiled gently. Vita took the flower and gently knocked Yagas on the head. You learned a lot at Hogwarts, and you know how to give flowers to make girls happy. It seems that I will give you some more things to do in the future, so that you can practice in advance. Aunt Vita, are you the devil? Yagas didn't expect that his kind surprise would end up like this. The expression becomes extremely wonderful. I'm kidding you, just wait a moment and I'll get you a book. Vita smiled brightly, took the black rose, and tied it in her bun. In a daze, Yagas realized that Vita had never smiled like this since he saw her. Pick out the textbooks you need for the second school year from the bookstore according to the book list. Yagas took the book and flipped through a few pages at random. By the way, Aunt Vita, how much are the textbooks? Lockhart asked for in galleons. On average, one copy costs about 5 gold galleons. His books are divided into adventure stories, and the prices are slightly more expensive. Vita had asked while taking the book. Hogwarts textbooks are an important source of revenue for bookstores and require extra attention. 5 gold galleons. Not cheap. Yagis is fairly familiar with the prices of textbooks at Hogwarts. Normal textbooks should cost 2 to 3 gold galleons, while cheaper ones such as the Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration only cost 1. Most of these books can be used for a long time, and some can even be passed down to younger siblings. This is also a Weasley family tradition. In comparison, Lockhart's books are obviously a bit too expensive. Each book costs 5 gold galleons, and there are 8 books in total. 40 gold galleons is almost equivalent to more than half a month's salary of an ordinary wizard. What's our profit? Excluding Gilderoy Lockhart's share and various costs, the profit from one copy is approximately 2 gold galleons and 5 silver sickles. 50-50. Yes, we are responsible for book production and sales, and Lockhart is responsible for publicity. Good guy. After working on it for a long time, the profiteer turned out to be me. Regardless of the share, the cost is only 2 or 3 silver coins. Sell it for 5 gold galleons. And Lockhart, no wonder he was able to live so well in St. Mungo's hospital after losing his memory. Selling books in the past few years, plus Hogwarts textbooks, was enough for him to make a lot of money. Aunt Vita, starting from today, the prices of all Lockhart's books will be reduced. Purchase a single copy for 4 gold galleons, 8 copies together for 25 gold galleons, and the entire Lockhart series for 30 gold galleons. Complete Lockhart's book as quickly as possible. In the original work, even if Lockhart lost his memory in the future, the fact that he used the amnesia spell to occupy the experiences of other wizards was not revealed. But that doesn't mean his book will be fine. 1 year of teaching at Hogwarts was enough for many wizards to see his quality. Why be so stubborn when losses can be avoided in advance? Vita didn't ask why, and frowned slightly. In this case, I'm afraid Lockhart will not agree. Don't worry about him. His share will continue to be the original 5 gold galleons. We will just make a little less. Okay, I'll arrange for them to do it now. On the same day, Saint's bookstore issued a relevant announcement. Making a splash in Diagon Alley again. There are always only a few rich people in the wizarding world, and most of the students at Hogwarts are from ordinary families. A set of Lockhart textbooks is really not cheap. Originally, they were all ready to save money and food, and Saint's bookstore undoubtedly gave them a second choice. Mr. Grindelwald is indeed the conscience of pure-blood wizards. He will definitely become a big man like Dumbledore in the future. You must learn from Mr. Grindelwald in the future. Fortunately, there is Mr. Grindelwald, otherwise, my children would probably have to buy second-hand textbooks this time. It would be great if all stores could have the same conscience as the Saints group. Bah! They deserve to be compared with Mr. Grindelwald. Look at those vampires in other bookstores. When they saw the announcement about Hogwarts, they immediately raised their prices. I'm afraid they won't be able to take advantage of the opportunity to make a fortune. That's right. Support Mr. Grindelwald. Support the Saints. Countless wizards are grateful to the Saints group. Even though some wizards are not well off, they still bite the bullet and buy a brand new set of Lockhart textbooks for their children for this benefit from Argus. In just a few days, most of the Lockhart textbooks at Saints bookstore were sold. Moreover, it has won a lot of reputation among British wizards. The Burrow. Harry, who had just been rescued by Ron and the Weasley twins, followed several people into the house quietly. A self-cleaning spatula, a clock made of Weasley family heads, and a unique house structure. Everything was so amazing to him. Ron took a piece of bread and put it in his mouth. Although it's a bit crude, it's still a home. Harry's eyes were full of excitement. I think this place is great. Dong 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 dong. There was a rush of footsteps on the stairs. Mrs. Molly looked angry and slammed her hands on the table. You die. Where has it gone? The moment he saw Harry, the anger in his eyes turned into the gentlest smile in the world. Oh, Harry, it's so good to see you, darling. Turning around, they saw the 3 Weasleys, their expressions serious again. The bed is empty, don't say anything. And he took the car away. You might die or be seen. As if he realized that his tone was not right, he turned to Harry and acted motherly again. Of course, I don't blame you, dear Harry. Both Weasleys were dumbfounded. Whose mother are you? The face changes too quickly. Ron's mouth was stuffed like a hamster, and he explained aggrievedly, they wanted to starve him to death, Mom, and they even sealed the windows. Be careful, I seal your window, Ron Weasley. Come on, Harry, it's time for breakfast. Under the leadership of Mrs. Molly, several people came to the dining table together. After a while, Arthur Weasley came to the table in formal clothes. He kissed Mrs. Molly on the cheek and sat at the head of the dining table. In the original book, Harry and Arthur had never met before, but now, because Ron caused a big trouble last school year, Mr. and Mrs. Weasley were called to Hogwarts. Arthur had met Harry in advance, briefly asked the reason, and didn't hesitate anymore. There was an owl hooting outside the window. Mrs. Molly put down her kitchen utensils. It must have been Errol with the message. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge owl crashed directly into the window. Percy took the letter down. It's a letter from Hogwarts. They sent Harry's letter as well. Dumbledore must know you are here, he is omnipotent. As a member of the Order of the Phoenix, Arthur had unconditional admiration for Dumbledore. Percy just opened the letter, took a look at it, and handed it to the Weasley twins. His brows couldn't help but tighten into a ball. No way, these things are not cheap. Yes, the spell books alone are expensive. For the Weasley family, which only relied on Arthur's salary to support the entire family, a book worth dozens of gold galleons was indeed too expensive. What's more, they need more than that. Ginny will be entering school soon, and her wand, wizard robe, etc. also need to be purchased. Mrs. Molly took the letter and sighed slightly, but she still smiled and comforted the children. Don't worry, kids. Maybe we should go to Diagon Alley today. Boom. The moment green flames enveloped his body, Harry suddenly felt something bad. Without giving him any chance to speak, the flow network teleported him to a dark place. The terrifying and eerie atmosphere made his scalp tingle. After walking a few steps, through the window of the store, a head of rich platinum blonde hair appeared in Harry's eyes like a savior. He rolled up from the ground and waved his arms in Draco's direction. Draco. Draco. Harry. Draco hurriedly opened the door and walked in, looking at Harry who looked confused. Harry. Why are you here? I was originally at the Burrow, Ron's house, and wanted to use flow powder to go to Diagon Alley, but I opened my eyes and ended up here. Draco, what are you doing? Outside the door, a serious voice sounded. When he saw Harry, his eyes showed an evil look. Dad, he is my friend. He took the wrong path using flow powder and came here by accident. Lucius looked Harry up and down and found that he did not look like he was following him. Most of the wariness in my heart was gone. Since he is your friend, I will come with you and send him to his family later. Due to other information received from Argos, Lucius can process dark magic items much faster than in the original work. This time I came here just to wrap things up and didn't care about the time. Draco breathed a sigh of relief and patted Harry's shoulder in comfort. Let's go, Harry, Dad and I will take you back. Wait a minute, what did you say his name was? Harry. Harry Potter, what's wrong? Harry Potter. Hearing this name, Lucius wanted to take Draco back and rebuild it. What the hell, you are Voldemort's younger brother, and you are hooking up with the Savior. Spread the word, do you still want this life? Looking at Draco's confused eyes, he thought of Yagisto's wise and almost demonic plan. Lucius took a few deep breaths and kept comforting himself. My dear, no matter how stupid you are still your own child. He wanted to leave Harry here, but the words were already out of his mouth. Moreover, even if he wanted to abandon him, with Draco's temper, he would definitely accompany him. In desperation, he had no choice but to walk towards Diagon Alley with Harry. All the way to the Saints bookstore in Diagon Alley. The Weasleys were already waiting here. After 1 year of operation, the first choice of most wizards has changed from Flourish and Blott's bookstore to Saints bookstore. The book signing of the original Lockhart book also moved from Flourish and Blott's to the more prosperous Saint. The entire store was crowded with wizards of all kinds who came to buy books and attend book signings. Oh, thank God, you didn't go too far after all. Seeing Harry coming, Mrs. Molly walked a few steps quickly and stepped forward to brush the dust off Harry's body. I'm fine, Mrs. Molly. Fortunately I met Draco and his father. Harry briefly recounted his recent experience, but forgot that the Malfoy family and Weasley had never dealt with each other. Especially recently, Arthur and his people have frequently gone to Malfoy's house to search for dark magic items. At this moment, the two are enemies and are extremely jealous when they meet. Look, who is this? The famous director of the Department for the Misuse of Muggle Articles, Mr. Arthur Weasley. The Ministry of Magic must be very busy, right? Making surprise inspections all day long. I hope you get overtime pay. I'm afraid judging from the current situation, there is not. The Ministry of Magic won't give you a good salary, so why don't you stop bringing shame to wizards? Lucius's words were thorny, making Ron's eyes red with anger. Arthur showed no sign of weakness and strode to Lucius. Both of them are one of the 28 sacred tribes, but their clothes are in sharp contrast. It seems we have very different understandings of shame. Malfoy. Lucius sneered. Obviously, hanging out with muggles. Could your family be any more depraved? There were almost sparks between the eyes of Arthur and Lucius. Ladies and gentlemen. A loud voice interrupted the glare between the two. Gilderoy Lockhart, please. Everyone's eyes were attracted by the figure walking up the stairs. Mrs. Molly tugged at Arthur's sleeve. Arthur, there are children here. Draco didn't want to cause trouble in Argos' shop, so he reminded Lucius softly. Dad. Lucius snorted coldly, swung his robe, and drew a sharp arc. You take a look at the books you need here, and I'll go take care of something. After saying that, he turned around and walked upstairs. Mrs. Molly looked at Draco, then at Arthur, hesitated, and then pulled Draco over. Come here, children, the affairs of your father's generation should not involve you. Thank you for sending Harry back. Arthur also nodded, indicating that he would not express his anger. Harry moved closer to Draco. Your father just went. I should have gone to talk to Yagus. As you know, the saint has cooperated with many families. The evil dark wizard. Ron was still worried about Lucius's words, and his attitude towards Draco was extremely unkind. Mrs. Molly scooped him up. Ron, don't say such things. On the other side, after Lucius went upstairs, he saw Yagus sitting in front of the coffee table within a few steps, holding a thick book and reading something. Next to her was Hermione, holding a large orange cat. It's Crookshanks. Yagus has been interested in this cat for a long time. In the original work, it was keenly aware of Sirius Black and Peter Pettigrew, so as soon as it appeared in the pet shop, Argus sent someone to buy it back. I gave it to Hermione as a gift when she came over today. Good morning, Mr. Grindelwald. Good morning, Mr. Malfoy. Argus put down his book and invited Lucius to sit down. Is this Miss Granger? Draco and Mr. Grindelwald have mentioned you more than once. You are the most outstanding student in Hogwarts, second only to Mr. Grindelwald. Nice to meet you. Lucius's attitude towards Hermione at this time is completely opposite to the first meeting in the original book. In the original work, he can be said to vividly express the superiority of pure blood. But now, it is a polite and respectful attitude. The Malfoy family has always sought advantages and avoided disadvantages, and being able to sit next to Argus is enough to demonstrate its status. Not to mention that his parents are muggles, even if he is a werewolf, he will not show the slightest disdain. Hello, Mr. Malfoy. Hermione stood up and saluted, looking at Argus and then at Lucius. Wisely, he chose to leave temporarily, leaving room for the two of them to talk. Mr. Grindelwald, thank you for your help to the Malfoy family. Malfoy will be your everlasting companion. Lucius saluted Argus, thinking of the recent surprise inspections, he felt frightened. The Malfoy family has collected many dark magic items over the years, and it would take a lot of time to process them. If Yagus hadn't reminded him that he would have spent a lot of money if he wanted to completely separate himself. We are partners, so naturally we should help each other. Yagus picked up the teacup and took a sip. Seeing that Lucius had no intention of speaking, he reminded him softly. Mr. Malfoy, you should know that I don't like wasting time. So, if you have anything to say, please say it directly. Lucius was silent for a moment and put his cane on the table. I wonder what Mr. Grindelwald thinks of the Dark Lord's prophecy. The one about Harry and Voldemort. Yes. Hearing Lucius' cautious response, Argus shook his head and chuckled. Prophecy. Whose predictions can be better than mine? Also possessing the eye of prophecy, Yagus has always disdained such illusory things. Instead of putting your chips on the incalculable, it's better to take everything into your own hands. He picked up the wand and waved it, and the water in the teapot seemed to be heated by something, making a gurgling sound. In just a few seconds, it started to boil. The understatement made Lucius's pupils shrink slightly. Silent casting. Even simply heating a teapot is something that no ordinary wizard can accomplish. You need to be extremely familiar with this magic spell, and at the same time, your own magical attainments must also reach an extremely high level. Even most Aurors can't complete it. Lucius once thought that his talent was high enough for Argos, but he still underestimated him. I have a question for you, Mr. Malfoy. Lucius straightened his posture and said respectfully, Mr. Grindelwald, please speak. Tell me, is the water in this teapot hot or cold? Teapot water. Lucius couldn't figure out what Yagus meant for a while. The water is still bubbling. You can tell it's hot without even looking. Is there any argument to be made? He was about to speak when he heard Yagus snap his fingers. The kettle that was still steaming just now suddenly went cold. The future has always been in the hands of the strong. Only the weak will rely on baseless predictions. Isn't it? Lucius met Yagus's confident eyes and unconsciously escaped. Yes, if everything really depends on prophecy, what's the point of all my years of hard work? The Malfoy family has gone through years of hard work and finally became one of the 28 purebloods. Is it because of the so-called prophecy? No. Senior Malfoy crawled out of the mountains of corpses and seas of blood time and time again, always relying on his control of the situation on all sides and his keen sense of smell far beyond ordinary people. And now, it's time to decide Malfoy's fate. He raised his eyes were serious as Yagus had never seen before. Mr. Grindelwald, I would like to complete a deal with you. In other words, a promise from you. What promise? If one day in the future, the Malfoy family encounters a disaster, I hope you can take action and save Draco. In return, all the books and connections of the Malfoy family will be open to you. Yagus's expression turned serious. I sighed secretly in my heart. As expected of Malfoy, he realized the changes that might happen in the future so early. Bet on various forces in advance. Based on Lucius's information, he must know the relationship between Draco and Harry. I and Narcissa had long been labeled Death Eaters, and they placed Draco in their and Dumbledore's hands. In the future, no matter which side wins, the continuation of the Malfoy family can be guaranteed. Sure enough, none of the pure blood families that have survived to this day are simple. Mr. Malfoy, you should know about my relationship with Draco. If something happens to him one day in the future, I can't possibly. It's different. Lucius interrupted Yagus. I know Draco, that kid, has a bit, straight character. The promise I want is to save him once, no matter the cost. Just once. After this is over, if the child has any problems again, it will have nothing to do with you. Malfoy will have no complaints. Okay, I agree. Yagus answered so cheerfully that Lucius almost didn't react. He was ready for the Lion of Argos to open his mouth, but he never thought that the other party wouldn't even ask. Mr. Grindelwald, you want to ask me why I agreed so quickly. Yagus had already expected it and looked in the direction of the door. Speak calmly. Some things cannot be measured by interests. He stood up and put a polite smile on his face again. I guess I've almost bought Draco's stuff. Mr. Malfoy, let's go together. Lucius stood up and saluted. As you wish. Saint's Bookstore. Gilderoy Lockhart has finished signing books, and several reporters from the Daily Prophet are surrounding him to take photos. A standard eight-tooth smile. The moment he turned to face the camera, Harry's eyes clearly lit up. No way, Harry Potter. His words instantly focused everyone's attention on Harry. At this time, Harry's face was covered with gray. He was extremely embarrassed, and he couldn't help but dodge into the crowd. Ron didn't seem to notice Harry's embarrassment, and pushed Harry hard to come to everyone. Quick, Harry. Mr. Lockhart is a famous adventurer. Go and take a photo with him. His voice was loud, eager to let everyone know that he was Harry's good friend. Get out of the way, Weasley. Draco pushed Ron away dissatisfied. Whether Harry wants to take pictures or not is his own choice. He is just an adventurer, so you will take him seriously. Shut up, Malfoy. Ron's cheeks turned red, obviously angry at Draco's words. Am I wrong? You just use Harry as a tool to show off. Draco, don't be angry, just take a photo, it'll be fine. Although Harry was grateful for Draco's words of help, he didn't want to embarrass his two good friends. Bite the bullet and come to Lockhart's side. Seeing Harry coming over, Lockhart's face looked better. What Draco just said was indeed a bit unpleasant, but it was not something he could offend the Malfoy family. I can only break my teeth and swallow it in my stomach. Fortunately, this savior is quite sensible. As the surrounding spotlights lit up, the click-click sound of cameras could be heard. Ron's expression became more and more proud. So what if you and Harry have known each other for a long time? Doesn't he prefer me? Otherwise, why would you listen to me and take a photo with Lockhart? Looking at Ron's provocative eyes, Draco couldn't help it anymore and punched him. The two people scuffled into a ball instantly. Harry immediately wanted to step forward and stop him, but Lockhart was hugging him tightly to take photos, not giving him any chance to escape. Anxious, he could only keep shouting. Stop it, stop it. Stop fighting. At this time, the Weasley family was taking Ginny to buy various items needed for the start of school, and had no idea what was happening here. Just then, the bookstore door opened. Lucius followed Argus into the bookstore. As soon as he entered the door, he saw his son and Ron fighting fiercely. He looked down at Yagus, his face burning. Draco. Stop it. Lucius stepped forward and gathered Draco as he was about to leave. But Ron, who had suffered a loss, was not willing to give up. He rushed forward and continued to punch and kick Draco. Lucius was already brimming with anger, and when he saw Ron being so ignorant, he became even more irritated. He flicked his sleeve hard and threw him aside. The next second, the bookstore door opened again. As soon as the Weasley family opened the door, they came face to face with the scene of Ron being thrown away. Ron also felt emboldened when he saw his parents. Pointing his finger at Lucius, he cried in grievance. Dad, he hit me. The Weasley family has been at odds with Malfoy for a long time. Not long ago, Arthur was laughed at by Lucius in the bookstore. Now that I see my son complaining, how can I bear it? Didn't even ask why. He immediately rushed towards Lucius. Come on, Dad, hit him. Hit him. Beat him quickly, Dad. The Weasley twins did not take it too seriously to watch the excitement and cheered loudly for their father. Mrs. Molly frantically stopped the two of them. Ron never thought that things would become such a big deal, and his face turned pale with fear. The hot spot in the bookstore has changed from Lockhart's book signing to the fight between Lucius and Lucius. Lockhart was so angry that he jumped to his feet. The bookstore was full of dissuasive voices and heckles from the clerks. The whole bookstore was crowded with spectators. However, Argus noticed that during the seemingly fierce battle between the two, Lucius secretly placed a diary in Ginny's book box. Yagos, help me quickly and separate them. Draco saw Argus as if he had seen a savior, and quickly ran to Argus and begged. Yagus glanced at Hagrid, who was squeezing forward to watch the excitement outside the door, waving his arms and shouting. Hagrid, come and help me. Hagrid was obviously startled when he heard his name, and when he got closer, he saw it was Yagus. So it's you, Yagus. Are you here to buy things? Yes, school is about to start, so we should prepare the things we need for the start of school. We can talk about these things later, but if you don't take action, they may really get into trouble. Argus shrugged and pointed at the two Lucius who were fighting. Hagrid grinned. No problem. He walked to the two of them in a few steps. His huge body was much taller than the two of them. One in each hand, he threw them aside like a chicken. Lucius was obviously a little superior and glared at Arthur angrily. Yagus turned around to say goodbye, and then walked away with Draco. Several of the clerks knew Lucius and were obviously unwilling to embarrass him when he was angry. After a brief discussion, we decided to report the matter to the store manager behind the scenes. Mrs. Molly hurriedly treated Arthur's wounds, while the Weasley twins came to Arthur with smiles and imitated the scene of the two fighting. He kept praising Arthur's heroic gesture just now. Only poor Ginny, the books she just bought were scattered all over the floor, and even got stepped on a few times. Picking up the book alone and aggrieved, Argus quietly stepped forward, lowered his head and put one second-hand book after another into Ginny's bookcase. There was only a black diary, which he quietly put into his sleeves. Have a look to see if you've lost anything. It's before it's too late. Argus' gentle smile made Ginny blush. He lowered his head and timidly replied, No. No. It's okay if you don't. Go and see your dad quickly. He's seriously injured. Argus tightened the frame of Ginny's book and looked in the direction where Arthur was resting. After Mrs. Molly treated Arthur's wounds, she finally had time to ask what happened. He called Ron forward and asked sternly, Ron Weasley, what the hell is going on? Arthur Weasley's eyes were also focused on Ron, waiting for him to give a response. He and Lucius have been at odds with each other for a long time, and they know each other's character very well. With Lucius's nostrils turned upward and his aristocratic nature, he would never be able to do something like lowering himself to a child like Ron under normal circumstances. Unless Ron did something to piss him off. Seeing Ron's evasive eyes, Mrs. Molly became more and more convinced. Mother. Ginny called softly, causing Mrs. Molly's expression to soften instantly. Oh, baby, are you okay? I'm fine, Mom. By the way, Mr. Grindelwald helped me pack the books. When Mrs. Molly saw Yagus next to her, her eyes were so kind that water could form. Trouble you again, Argus. Easy to do. Mrs. Molly's burst of enthusiastic gratitude almost made Yagus unable to resist. Immediately afterwards, I learned the complete story from others. A face suddenly darkened. Ron Weasley. Harry is your friend, how dare you do this to him? I was wrong, Mom. Ron knew that he couldn't escape and that he was the one who caused his father to be injured, so he bowed his head and admitted his mistake. Argus was not in the mood to watch Ron being scolded. After bidding farewell to the Weasley family, he prepared to return to St. Manor. Lockhart wanted to take advantage of Yagus's enthusiasm again, but found that the other party ignored him at all, so he could only leave in anger. Time flies, and it's the first day of school in a blink of an eye. Inside the carriage of the Hogwarts slow train, Argus and Hermione were each holding a book and watching quietly. Parvati and Padma next to them wanted to say something, but were afraid of disturbing Yagus. When they were hesitating how to speak, the door of the box suddenly opened. Argus, have you seen Harry? Draco's careless voice aroused strong dissatisfaction from the Parvati sisters. Stare at him angrily. I waited for a long time because I was afraid of disturbing Yagus. It's better for you to call me when you come up. You haven't been beaten severely by people in society, right? Sensing that the two men were looking at each other unkindly, Draco shrank his head guiltily. Yagus put down the book and then remembered. In the original book, Harry and Ron don't seem to get on the bus at all. Dobby, the house elf of Draco's family who yearns for freedom, stumbles the two of them when they enter the station, forcing them to rely on Arthur's flying car to barely reach Hogwarts. Unfortunately, it has little to do with myself. Ron cheated on himself, no one else is to blame. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Fatian car can be brought into the sight of some wizards and lay the foundation for future mass production. He shook his head. I didn't see it, but he and Ron are together. Even if they don't get in the car, they can use flow powder to get to Hogsmeade, so they can come. Do not worry. Makes sense. Draco nodded and stopped paying attention. Every time at Hogwarts, there are a few students who don't get on the bus, and no one is seen getting into trouble. Something can't happen when it's their turn, right? But this time, Harry and Ron were going to let him down. At this moment, Ron was driving his father's flying car precariously flying in the air. Let's go. We just need to find the Hogwarts Express. Ron, can you really drive? Harry held the car door hard with one hand and looked at Ron suspiciously. His eyes were full of distrust. Trust me, no problem. Woohoo. The sky was dark, and the Hogwarts train arrived at the terminal. Hogwarts School, which has been dormant for several months, once again welcomes a group of new students. Hermione burst into laughter as she watched a group of ignorant little wizards being thrown into the boat by Hagrid like herding sheep. Were we like this last year? We were stupid, and everything we looked at was novel. Senior Granger, you are only 1 year older than them. Yagus reminded with a smile. What's wrong with being 1 year older? Even if you're 1 day older, you're older than them. Besides, I have already watched a school history, so I won't make a fuss when I see something. Hermione looked arrogant, flicked her hair, and followed her senior sister not far away. Arriving in front of a bunch of carriages, Hermione curiously touched the carriage frame. Yagos, is this carriage enchanted? Why is there no horse? Give me your hand. Argus held Hermione's wrist and gently touched it forward. The strange feeling of fur spread along the palm of her hand and into Hermione's brain, making her hair stand up in fear. Ah! Turning his head, he faced Yagos's suppressed smile. What did Sister Granger just say about those new students? Argus imitated Hermione's tone just now and repeated her words in a sinister manner. I have already watched a school history, so I won't make a fuss when I see something. You. Hermione was so angry and embarrassed that she couldn't help but punch Argus. Argus saw that Hermione was thin-skinned and did not continue to tease her about this issue. He put his hand on the carriage and explained. The one pulling the cart is not magic, it's the Thestral. A magical animal that only people who have experienced death can see. Experiencing death. Hermione curiously followed the traces that Argus had touched and slowly put her hand up. That's right. In fact, it was also the first time that Yagos saw a magical animal like the Thestral with his own eyes. Dragon head and horse body. There is no flesh on the body, and the whole body is pitch black. The fur is tightly attached to the skeleton. A pair of bat-like wings are constantly fluttering, blowing strange winds. Group of 4, get in the car as soon as possible. Hearing the urging of the station staff, Argus got on the train with Hermione and Padma's sisters and arrived at Hogwarts Castle. Familiar layout, familiar scene. Only this time, they were sitting in different positions. Argus came to the Slytherin table and saw Amiri Carlo directing the Slytherin members to sit down, and was about to step forward to say hello. But the other party seemed to have seen some terrifying giant beast, smiling extremely reluctantly. Am I disfigured? Why was he so frightened when he saw me? Argus looked at Draco behind him in confusion. You forgot, today is the first day of school, the freshmen have to choose the chief, and there is also a chief ranking competition. If the fifth-year chief hadn't been a few days late last year, you would have overturned the entire Slytherin. Draco looked excited, as if he was about to become the leader of Slytherin. No one asked for leave this time. Even if he wants to refuse, he has no excuse. That's right, in the new semester, I can earn another amount of achievement points. Only then did Yagos remember that on the first day of school last year, he earned a lot of achievement points by playing in the chief ranking battle. Last time I reached the 4th grade, if I can clear it this time, it will cost me hundreds of achievement points. Stop laughing, Yagos, look at the prefect's expression. If you continue to laugh, he won't even be able to sit still. Yagos followed Draco's gaze and saw Amiri Carlo in the first place, looking restless. One moment he talks about this, and the other moment he gives instructions on that. I haven't touched my butt even once on a stool. By the way, the sorting ceremony is about to begin. Why hasn't Harry come yet? While talking, Draco thought of his true love again, and his eyes kept looking at the Gryffindor table. While the two were talking, Professor McGonagall had already walked into the hall with a new batch of young wizards. The sorting hat gave a loud reminder, and the sorting ceremony officially began. Yagos's eyes were also attracted by the sorting ceremony. If I remember correctly, there seem to be several important supporting roles in this freshman class in the future. Ginny, Astoria, Luna. The first two, one is Harry's future wife and the other is Draco's. Luna appears to have ended up marrying Rolf Scamander, Newt Scamander's grandson. Like Luna, she is also a member of Hogwarts, but from Hufflepuff Academy. What are you looking at? Yagos. Do you also think there are some good-looking freshmen in this class? 4th grade? No, it should be Chief Scarman of 5th grade now, hugging Yagos playfully, his tone full of ridicule. I'm warning you Scarman, if you dare to teach Yagos a bad lesson, see how I deal with you. Alexia, who has become the leader of the 4th grade, has a warning in her beautiful eyes. In terms of strength, she may not be Scarman's opponent. However, she has many followers, including senior students. If you want to deal with Scarman, you don't even have to do it yourself. Okay, it's just a joke. Scarman, please pay attention to your influence. After all, he is also the chief of Slytherin and represents the face of Slytherin. You act like a gangster all day long. How will other colleges think? Yagos was also a little helpless towards Scarman. Last year alone, the other party had 4 or 5 girlfriends. It's no wonder Alexia had a problem with him. Look, it's Astoria. Draco's voice brought everyone's attention back to the sorting ceremony. A girl with the same blonde hair and blue eyes as Yagas sat on the high stool. It seemed that he had never experienced a similar scene before, and his pretty face was slightly flushed. The 2 small dimples are distributed on both sides of the cheeks, making them look particularly cute. The sorting hat had just been placed on her head before she made her choice. Slytherin. After hearing the sorting hat's words, Astoria breathed a sigh of relief and ran to the Slytherin table happily. Sitting next to Daphne, he happily greeted Yagas. His eyes were full of admiration. Argus responded with a smile. Welcome, Miss Greengrass. At the same time, Snape quietly disappeared from the professor's chair. Outside the school, in midair, Ron drove the flying car to the sky above Hogwarts Castle. The moment he saw the castle, a smile finally appeared on Harry's face. The next second, the flying car crashed straight towards the castle. Ron was stupid. Both hands hit the steering wheel hard. Up, up. Harry let out a hysterical cry of terror. Ron hurriedly pressed the buttons. Out of order. Harry hurriedly stepped forward to help control the car, but unfortunately the 2 of them didn't even know the specific control process of the flying car. After tinkering for a long time, the car fell instead of rising. Up. Ron, watch out for the tree ahead. Stop. Stop it. Ron took out his wand and tried to use a spell to stop the car. Click. The car body shook, and the wand snapped. Then, he hit the Whomping Willow hard. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and support our channel.